Chapter 767. Yi Qinghan stared at the sky, clenching his fists as his battle-intent soared. He had never wanted to fight someone at the same level as him so much. Li Feng. He's truly a legend. Even if he has a mortal physique, who would be able to do anything to him when facing one of the 10 great primal chaos physiques? The so-called high bloodline physiques are nothing but a joke in front of him. Yi Qinghan said hoarsely. What a monster. He doesn't seem to have any special physiques, right? Emperor Yi stared at the northeast. In this life, other than Yi Qinghan, there was another person he respected in his heart. Yi Qinghan shook his head. Li Feng's physique and bloodline couldn't be considered good. This kind of person relied purely on his will and talent to reach this level. Let's go take a look. Yi Qinghan carried Qin Wentian and soared into the sky, tearing apart space and leaving the crazed manor. Emperor Yi followed closely behind. He soared into the sky, burrowed into the earth, and moved the stars. In the blink of an eye, he broke through time and space. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw the 10 experts near God Extinction Mountain. He couldn't help but hurriedly remind them, Master, look. Why are there so many experts at God Extinction Mountain? Yi Qinghan was startled. He narrowed his eyes and saw the sacred Qilin and the other two. His hair stood on end. Were these 3 old fogies prepared to fight to the death? Take Wentian and leave. Quickly, don't return to the crazed manor. Leave this plane immediately. Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. When Emperor Yi heard this, he knew that the other party was an enemy. If he left Qin Wentian here, he would only serve as cannon fodder. He might also become a burden to Yi Qinghan. He reached out to grab Qin Wentian and immediately rushed towards the planar battlefield. Boom! Yi Qinghan raised his saber and emitted a towering saber qi. He stood in the sky and pointed at the 3 experts, wanting to attract Li Feng over. When the 3 experts saw that Yi Qinghan had discovered them, they directly soared into the sky and rushed towards Yi Qinghan. Go after that woman. Take the child for me and kill that female practitioner. The old ancestor of the Z family said to the remaining high god priests. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The 7 high gods attacked Ren Huangyi from all directions. Their speed was extremely fast. Buzz. Emperor Yi plucked a string in the air, and a strand of zither music filled the air. It carried a murderous aura as it rushed towards the 7 high deities' consciousness. Then, he turned and fled. Yi Qinghan did not stop the 7 high gods. Instead, he retreated step by step towards the secret realm. Are the 3 of you going to fight me to the death? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. Little bastard, you made the gods' treasure pavilion suffer a great loss and killed so many of my sons. Do you still want to reconcile? The patriarch of the Z family roared in anger. If we don't bring your head back, how can the 3 of us half-step lords govern the Clear Moon realm? How can we explain this to our clansmen? The sacred Qilin growled sternly. Yi Qinghan looked at the ferocious faces of the 3 high gods. They looked like sages, but in reality, they were vengeful people. He could not help sneering, shaking his head as he said, You can't kill me. You can try if you don't believe me. Is that so? This realm is yours. I'll let you have a taste of what it's like to have your organization crushed and destroyed. The Grand Elder of the Void Spirit sect laughed evilly. He looked in the direction of the crazy manor with cold eyes that sent chills down one's spine. The debt of 6 months had to be paid quickly. Some time ago, Yi Qinghan had forced the 3 half-step lords to take a step back. Now, they wanted to use the same method to crush Yi Qinghan's Taoist heart. Yi Qinghan was silent for a moment, then he said ruthlessly, Do you think I'm a good person? That I would give up my life for the sake of all living things in the world? Yi Qinghan was not a good person. He could save all living things in the world, but he could also destroy them. He had even given up his life to protect the endless plains. However, he really did not have such thoughts about the mythical realm. If he could develop it, then so be it. This was just a platform for him, and he could leave at any time. Of course, I won't give up my life for these people, but I'll avenge them. I'll truly fight to the death. I'll make the three major organizations restless, and there's nothing you can do about it. Yi Qinghan's lips curled up, his eyes emotionless. The three powerhouses were stunned by Yi Qinghan's cruel smile and ruthlessness. He would rather give up the entire realm and the mountains and rivers he had conquered than fight them head-on. This kind of person was too vicious. What about the endless plains that you once protected? What about the crazy manor? I don't believe you're willing to give up on them. Try running away now. Sacred Qilin mocked coldly. Yi Qinghan's expression changed slightly at the mention of the endless plains. His voice was hoarse as he asked coldly, "What if I give up as well? Are you willing to let the living things of the three major organizations be buried with them? You won't be able to escape today. You won't be able to escape even if you break the heavens." The three experts closed in from three different directions, blocking the path to God Extinction Mountain. They also blocked the path to Voracious Wolf Plain and the planar battlefield. With the three paths of survival blocked, the only path left was death. I don't believe it. You'll know once you try. Yi Qinghan activated the 10-direction seal to protect his chest as he continued to retreat. Li Feng was still bathing in the starlight of the Milky Way. His body had been remodeled, and his combat strength was still soaring. He was 30% stronger with each breath. Once his body remodeling was completed, his combat strength would definitely surpass Yi Qinghan's. At the very least, his instantaneous explosive power would surpass Yi Qinghan's. However, it was impossible for him to kill Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan was not in a hurry to approach the mystic realm. Dragging Li Feng into the battlefield at this time would not benefit him. Right now, Li Feng was growing stronger with each breath he took. If anyone dared to interrupt his progress, he would not rest until he was dead. Thump, 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 Yi Qinghan's dragon blood was boiling, and his heartbeat was strong. His combat strength was at its peak. Right now, his only way out was not in the Voracious Wolf Plain or the dimensional battlefield. If he wanted to live, there was only one place, God Extinction Mountain. The second sorcerer god had not appeared, so he could only enter God Extinction Mountain and the mystic realm. The three powerhouses looked at each other. Their divine power poured out and surrounded Yi Qinghan, sealing off his path. Now, in order to kill Yi Qinghan, they advanced step by step. They did not want to destroy him instantly. They only wanted to boil the frog in warm water, reducing Yi Qinghan's space to survive until there was no place for him to stand. Whoosh! The divine light around Li Feng and the divine light emitted by Yi Qinghan and the others was so dazzling that it shocked all the powerhouses. The upper-rank priests dared not speak. They did not even dare to show themselves, afraid that they would be implicated. The battle between a half-step lord and Yi Qinghan was not something they could participate in. Thump, 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 the sound of drums at the 10 checkpoints in the Mad Dragon Empire shook the heavens. The army roared. Although they knew that a half-step lord could destroy them with a wave of his hand, they continued to beat the drums to boost their morale. Yi Qinghan's dragon blood roared, and his aura rose to its most powerful state. Yi Qinghan was very touched. Although he said that he would not care about the Mad Dragon Empire, how could he be willing to give up the lives of these brothers? The three powerhouses laughed. They laughed very happily. It seemed that Yi Qinghan's ruthlessness was just an act. He could not be emotionless and desireless. Today, Yi Qinghan could only fight. He could not escape, and he would not escape. You're very loyal. I wonder what they'll think when they find out that you're giving up on these people's lives. Sacred Qilin smirked. Yi Qinghan grunted. His veins bulged as he said coldly, "Do you think I don't have a foundation? That I'll let you slaughter me?" Chapter 768. Yi Qinghan was stalling for time. Every breath he took would give him an extra chance to survive. But how long had the three old monsters been alive? How could they not see that Yi Qinghan was waiting for Li Feng? The three exchanged glances and nodded slightly. They pushed Yi Qinghan back toward the Kuang Manor, forcing Yi Qinghan to admit defeat and compromise. Yi Qinghan had already compromised once for Xiao Zhanxing and Gu Qinyu. Would he do it again? If he wasn't so lucky next time and was reborn on another planet with the help of the Divine Martial Imperial Codex, he would have a second chance. Yi Qinghan stopped retreating. He would rather die than retreat. Once he reached the prosperous city of the Kuang Dragon Empire and fought with the three experts, the creatures on the ground would die. He didn't care about the dead, but he didn't want to see the soldiers beating the drums die. Dong dong dong. Southern Fortress, Yeyang Fortress, Ganshan Fortress, Northern Fortress, Western Fortress, the lords of the 10 fortresses personally went up the walls to beat the drums. Their upper bodies were naked, and their bronze skin was drenched in sweat. Luo Jie, Lu Zhantian, the veins of the lords of the 10 fortresses bulged. Millions of soldiers roared. Fight! 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 Thousands of creatures roared. The people of the Kuang Dragon Empire followed suit. They raised their hands to control the force of heaven and earth, suppressing the Tao. The three experts could see how high Yi Qinghan's prestige was in the mythological realm. At that moment, Yi Qinghan suddenly recalled the move the second sorcerer god had used against him. That's right, it was the Force. Using the Force to suppress others. It seemed slow and harmless, but it was enough to stop people from moving. That was the power of the Force. Yi Qinghan's pupils constricted as he recalled the second sorcerer god's force. His force came from himself, and he was the heavens and earth. His own force could not be defied, but Yi Qinghan's cultivation had not reached that level. His own force could not shake the Tao hearts of the three experts. Yi Qinghan closed his eyes. His divine sense spread out and merged with the violent dragon empire. Borrowing the dragon force of the empire's dragon veins, he became the force of all the people. Whoosh! Brandishing his saber, Yi Qinghan actually mobilized the power of the heavenly Tao of the entire mythological plane. It was like the true heavenly Tao, pressing down on the three experts. The moment Yi Qinghan opened his eyes, the three experts were stunned and didn't dare to move. The qi and blood in their bodies froze as though they were about to die. The three experts sucked in a breath of cold air as they looked at Yi Qinghan in disbelief. Yi Qinghan's force was growing stronger. The stronger the fighting spirit of the people of the violent dragon empire, the more loyal they were, the stronger Yi Qinghan's force was. Yi Qinghan did not move at all. He merely pointed ahead with his heavy finger. It was as though he could crush everything before him if he moved. At that moment, Yi Qinghan's combat strength had more than doubled. His aura and fighting spirit had also reached their peak. He was almost on par with a true half-step lord. You want to see my foundation? I'll show you that even ants can destroy a colossal dragon. A gathering of ordinary people can also shake a half-step lord. Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. There was strength in numbers. One person's strength might not even be comparable to an ant in the face of a half-step lord. However, if the power of countless living beings in the entire empire were gathered and transmitted into Yi Qinghan's consciousness through faith, it would not be impossible for him to use this power to shake a half-step lord. Roar! Yi Qinghan transformed into a dragon and soared into the sky. He let out a long roar that shattered mountains and rivers. I, Yi Qinghan, Lord of the violent dragon empire, command all living beings in the name of a master god. I implore you to raise your arms and lend me your strength to destroy the enemy. A majestic voice reverberated through the air and spread out in all directions. At that moment, even 5-year-old children raised their arms without hesitation. 10,000 people, 100,000 people, 1,000,000 people. They raised their arms, determined that Yi Qing Han would win. 100 million people, 1 billion people, 10 billion people, the army roared, giving all living beings faith. Was the violent dragon empire not a gift from Yi Qing Han that made it so powerful? Without Yi Qing Han, they would still be living in an abyss of suffering. Once Yi Qing Han fell, the home they had painstakingly built would instantly fall apart. The home they loved would need to be protected by themselves. I won't be a slave. Even the myriad spirits of the violent dragon empire will not be a slave. Yi Qing Han swept his dragon tail, shattering the dome of heaven and mobilizing the vitality of all living beings. Everyone walked out of their homes, raised their arms, and looked determined. Whoosh! When everyone's faith gathered at the summit of the dome of heaven, a divine barrier appeared above the entire violent dragon empire, protecting the entire empire. The invisible barrier emitted a rainbow-colored divine radiance. From afar, one could see that it was an unbreakable defensive barrier. The barrier separated a vast amount of energy and poured it into the dragon's body, stimulating the dragon's strength. Roar! Yi Qing Han returned to his original form. His long blades soared into the sky and appeared above the dome of the barrier. It rotated at high speed, connecting the barrier and Yi Qing Han. At this moment, Yi Qing Han was the entire empire. He actually tied the entire empire together with himself. Crack! Yi Qing Han clenched his iron fist. The God-severing gauntlet was attached to his body. His body emitted a terrifying power. The God-severing gauntlet was actually activated. His black hair danced and his clothes flapped loudly. His deep eyes were filled with arrogance, and his domineering aura leaked out. Yi Qinghuang hovered in the air outside the barrier, looking down at the three powerhouses from above. The three powerhouses stared at each other, their murderous intent growing stronger. When they saw Li Feng break through earlier, he was already considered a legend and was very terrifying. However, Yi Qing Han had already shattered their understanding. This method of borrowing momentum to attack had long been lost. It was impossible for even a half-step lord to borrow such great momentum. We can't let him live. Whoosh! Grand Elder Su Ling drew his sword. His sword pierced through the clouds and the sun, piercing through the void, and charged toward Yi Qing Han. Boom! The patriarch of the Z family formed a seal with both palms. A huge palm print blotted out the sky, crushing space and time as it pressed down on Yi Qing Han. Roar! The sacred Qilin activated its sacred beast bloodline. Although it was very thin, it was still powerful. Its fist broke through space and time, attacking Yi Qing Han from the other side. Traceless great path, traceless wind. Yi Qing Han muttered. His silhouette suddenly turned into thousands of afterimages, charging in all directions. 5 elements dragon fist. Each of the afterimages delivered a punch that could shake space and time. The God-severing gloves exuded a power that could destroy exalted gods, charging toward the three powerhouses with the dragon afterimages. Boom, boom, boom. Although the afterimages did not have much of a physical attack, they were frightening enough. The three powerhouses dared not underestimate them. They did not hesitate to waste their divine power to shatter the afterimages. They discovered Yi Qing Han's true body and charged toward the sacred Qilin. Bang! The Qilin's arm collided with the Azure Dragon's arm. His combat bones were broken, and Yi Qing Han was sent flying while coughing up blood. However, the sacred Qilin did not have it easy either. Blood spurted from its iron fist, and its body flew into the distance like a kite with a broken string. Whoosh! Boom! The patriarch of the Z family and the supreme elder of the Void Spirit sect also attacked. Even if Yi Qing Han was bound to the divine nation, it was impossible for him to shake off the joint attack of the three powerhouses. Caught off guard, he could only swing his fist to meet the attacks of the two powerhouses. With another earth-shattering sound, Yi Qing Han was smashed to the ground. His body rolled for thousands of meters, covered in blood. The three powerhouses did not attack again. It was not that they did not want to, but that they could not. After clashing with Yi Qing Han, their qi and blood were restless, and their divine power almost lost control. Yi Qing Han's strength was too great, and his body was unparalleled. Chapter 769. Yi Qing Han was in a sorry state. He rolled on the ground as dragon blood spilled and dyed his battle robe red. The elemental body would also collapse. No matter how strong the divine body was, it could only be supported by the realm of a low-level great god. After one move, Yi Qing Han was injured. Whoosh, Yi Qing Han was not surprised but happy. At least the three of them could not kill him instantly. Then there was a chance. His eyes flashed coldly as he stared at the sacred Kylin. Now he could only rely on his strength. If he was being ganged up on, then he would grab one of them and beat them with all his might. He would beat them until their hearts turned cold. Whoosh! Yi Qing Han stood up and took the initiative to attack the sacred Kylin. His fist rolled up the sky dragon, and the traces of wind were everywhere. Countless shadows surrounded the three of them. By the time the Grand Elder of the Void Spirit sect and the Elder of the Z family destroyed the shadows, Yi Qing Han had already rushed to the front of the sacred Kylin. Boom! His fist broke the void and the dragon roared. It was unstoppable. The sacred Kylin was shocked. It punched out with both fists and divine power poured out. Bang! What the sacred Kylin didn't expect was that Yi Qing Han's fist suddenly turned into a large palm and grabbed the sacred Kylin's fist. The sky dragon coiling eagle was formed, and Yi Qing Han kept attacking the sacred Kylin. Bang, bang, bang. Yi Qing Han punched, elbowed, kneed, and punched into the sacred Kylin's flesh. The destructive power was unstoppable. The sacred Kylin was flustered and screamed in pain. Its body was smashed into the ground by Yi Qing Han's punch. The two masters attacked from both sides, one sword and one palm. They were so fast that they were in front of Yi Qing Han in the blink of an eye. Only able to dodge one attack, Yi Qing Han did not hesitate. He let the Elder of the Z family hit his back and rushed back to the Grand Elder of the Void Spirit sect. Puchi, the divine sword pierced through the right side of Yi Qing Han's chest. Before the Grand Elder of the Void Spirit sect could be surprised, he saw Yi Qing Han's ferocious face reveal a cruel smile. Yi Qing Han leaned forward and the sword pierced through his body. Whoosh! Yi Qing Han stretched out his hands and grabbed Great Elder Hollow Spirit's throat. Then, he punched his temple hard, causing Great Elder Hollow Spirit to spurt out blood and feel dizzy. Bang! The Elder of the Z family slammed his palm on Yi Qing Han's back, sending Yi Qing Han and the Great Elder of Void Spirit flying 1,000 meters away and crashing into the barrier. Ah! Yi Qing Han roared, and his fists hit the throat and head of Great Elder Su Ling like raindrops. He ignored the Elder of the Z family behind him and let him attack. If it weren't for the Shifang seal blocking part of the attack, he would have been smashed to pieces by the Elder of the Z family. Bang bang bang. Boom. Boom. The body of the Great Elder of the Void Spirit sect was not very strong. Soon, he was badly mutilated by Yi Qing Han. At this moment, he was still unwilling to give up struggling. He clenched the sword in his hand and crushed Yi Qing Han's 5 elements body. Dragon blood spurted out and dyed the two people red. Go to hell. Yi Qing Han struck Great Elder of the Void Spirit's head with his right elbow. Bang! The head of a dignified half-step lord had been crushed by Yi Qing Han. Great Elder of the Void Spirit's soul drove his godhead and fled through the sky. Yi Qing Han borrowed the power of the Empire's all spirits, but his body could not hold on any longer. His entire body was covered in cracks and wounds. After being attacked by the Elder of the Z family again and again, he almost fainted. You go to hell too. The Elder of the Z family shattered time and space with his palm. He appeared behind Yi Qing Han and went straight for the back of his head. If this palm hit, Yi Qinghan would definitely die. Yi Qinghan had just crushed Great Elder of the Void Spirit's body and could not dodge in time. He could only twist his body and grab Void Spirit's body behind his head, using his body to block the fatal blow. Boom! The Elder of the Z family did not hesitate. He struck Great Elder of the Void Spirit's body with his palm. Divine power poured out and crashed into Yi Qinghan's consciousness through the body. Yi Qinghan spat out blood. His head was facing down as he crashed into the ground. His mind was a mess. If not for the soul suppression pearl protecting his soul might have been destroyed. Even so, it was not easy. His opponent was a half-step lord. Yi Qinghan could not roll away in time. He crashed into the ground and immediately bled from all his orifices. His eyes were covered in blood and he could not open them. He could not even stand up. The Elder of the Z family was overjoyed. Without hesitation, he formed hand seals with both palms, intending to destroy Yi Qinghan. At that moment, the Startwining vine suddenly shot out of its body. Countless vines covered the sky and trapped Yi Qinghan within. The main vine, along with tens of millions of vines, smashed toward the Elder of the Z family. Whoosh 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 whoosh, there were too many vines. The Startwining vine was going all out. Even if the Elder of the Z family could destroy 1,000,000 vines in one move, it would still take him 10 moves to destroy all the vines. The vines danced in space and time, giving Yi Qinghan one last chance at survival. He reached out and pulled out the divine sword in his body. Blood rained down, but it was all absorbed by the Startwining vine. Not a single drop was wasted. Yi Qinghan lay inside the vine, frowning. The pain was unbearable. His soul, in particular, was groggy and could not heal his injured body at all. Wake up! Wake up quickly, or we'll all die. The divine bird roared and took out more than 10 divine pills from its universe ring. Without asking about their effects, it stuffed all of them into Yi Qinghan's mouth. The divine pills melted as soon as they entered his mouth. They turned into divine power that flowed through his limbs and bones, sealing his wounds. The 5 elements finally erupted and automatically healed his injured body. Heavenly Spirit Pill, Soul Recovery Pill. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. However, his soul could not control the universe ring at all. The damage to his soul made him feel hopeless. The divine bird realized that something was wrong. It used some unknown method to forcefully break the contract between Yi Qinghan and its universe ring. It dripped its own blood on Yi Qinghan to claim ownership of the ring. Then, it threw all the divine pills into Yi Qinghan's mouth. As the elixir entered his knowledge sea, Yi Qinghan felt a refreshing sensation. He wiped the blood from his eyes with his arm and opened his eyes slightly. He felt like the world was spinning around him. It was not an illusion. The Startwining vine was really being beaten back. At this moment, the sacred Kylan and the Elder of the Z family had joined forces. The Startwining vine was almost left with its body. All the vines were destroyed. Roar! The colorful snake and the golden crow rushed out. A huge fire drowned space and time. The Pishio tore through the void and appeared behind the sacred Kylan. It bit off a piece of the Kylan's flesh. The sacred Kylan was in so much pain that it punched the Pishio away. Roar! The Pishio swallowed a mouthful of flesh, but its skin and flesh were torn open. It almost died on the spot. Whoosh! 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 The golden crow spat out a huge fire and almost spat out its origin. It panted and returned to Yi Qinghan's body. The colorful snake was not afraid of death. It also rushed to the side of the sacred Kylan. It bared its fangs and bit the sacred Kylan. Its flesh was the closest to a divine beast. Its blood and chi were very strong. It was a tonic. The heavenly dragon coiling eagle and the colorful snake were too fast. The sacred Kylin was flustered. However, the elder of the Z family poured out his divine power. He ignored the fire and attacked the Startwining Vine's body. If he hit it, the Startwining Vine would die and Yi Qinghan would not be able to escape. Chapter 770. Thump. 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 The deafening drumbeats shook the heavens. The citizens of the violent Dragon Empire roared madly. Their fighting spirit soared, and their morale transcended time and space. Yi Qinghan was completely bound to the empire through Berserk Reset. His divine body recovered rapidly, and he tore apart the protection of the Startwining Vine, shattering the void with a punch. On behalf of the empire, I judge you guilty. Boom! The void was destroyed, and a gigantic dragon soared into the sky. The two energies collided, and their auras soared into the stars. The terrifying aftershock distorted the Empire's defensive barrier. If not for this barrier, half of the Empire would have been destroyed. The closer it got, the more united the people of the Empire became. No one was willing to let go, and all of them poured their divine power into the barrier. Bang! Yi Qinghan and the old man from the Z family were shattered. Blood dyed the heavens as they flew backward for more than 1,000 meters. Yi Qinghan, in particular, flew backward in the air, completely out of control. Fire Crow transformed into a gigantic firebird and caught Yi Qinghan, but it still could not stop the momentum. Both of them were sent flying into the distance. Pfft! The old man from the Z family spat out a mouthful of blood essence. His aura had dimmed significantly, and his eyes were bloodshot. The divine power in his body had gone out of control. It was as though his palm had landed on a lord, and he could not stop trembling. Yi Qinghan was carrying the entire kingdom of God against one person at the moment. The fact that both of them were injured was enough to prove that the old man from the Z family's strength was truly extraordinary. He was going against the entire empire alone. The violent Dragon Empire occupied more than half of the mythical plane's territory. They had an uncountable number of people, and there were not many high gods. In fact, there were no more than 3 to 5 of them. However, there were countless powerhouses in the Middle God Temple. When everyone's faith was gathered together, it was enough to defy the heavens. Yi Qinghan was the only one who could do such a thing, to bind the entire empire together to fight against half-step lords. Bang! Yi Qinghan and Fire Crow crashed into a mountain. Fire Crow took most of the impact for Yi Qinghan, and it almost exploded on the spot. At that moment, the sacred Qilin did not hesitate to hurt itself and landed a punch on its body. Not only was it injured, but the colorful snake was also sent flying, and blood and flesh splattered everywhere. Boom! The sacred Kylin was furious. Without asking Yi Qinghan, it smashed the colorful snake into the ground. It was almost smashed into a bloody mess. Just as the sacred Kylin was about to kill the colorful snake, the Pishio flashed and took the colorful snake with its mouth. It disappeared from the space. Damn bastard! I'll kill your master. Let's see how long you can live. The sacred Qilin roared and turned its head to look at the mountain Yi Qinghan had crashed into. It stomped on the ground and rushed to the peak of the mountain. It looked down from above and smashed the mountain with one palm. It wanted to crush Yi Qinghan to death at the bottom of the mountain. Master, run! Fire Crow transformed into a human and used all its strength to throw Yi Qinghan out of the mountain. However, the mountain collapsed and crushed it into powder, crashing into the ground. Yi Qinghan rolled on the ground. He was already exhausted. His soul and body were in the weakest state. No matter how much power the Empire sent to him, it was not enough to heal his body and soul. Seeing Fire Crow die for him, he was furious. His fingers pierced through the mountain. 10 directions returned to 1, suppress. The 10 directions seal rushed out of his body and covered the sky, smashing towards the sacred Qilin. Bang! The sacred qilin was extremely strong. It was actually in a stalemate with the 10 directions seal. It was using its deepest strength to suppress the other party. Kill him! Him! The sacred qilin roared at the elder of the Z family. The sacred qilin could not move. Yi Qinghan could not move either. If anyone moved, they would be suppressed by the 10 directions seal. Even though the 10 directions seal was Yi Qinghan's divine weapon, it had been used to its fullest. No one could escape from it. A sharp sword suddenly appeared in the elder of the Z family's hand. He slashed through the air, aiming for Yi Qinghan's body. Ah! Yi Qinghan felt the threat of death. The sword qi had already entered his body. If he did not dodge, he would definitely be killed by the elder of the Z family. However, if he dodged, the sacred qilin would take control of the 10 directions seal. At that time, the sacred qilin could still suppress him. There was no time to think. He could only resist. At this moment, the divine bird suddenly dragged the reincarnation mirror behind Yi Qinghan and roared, "If I don't show my power, you won't treat me as the divine emperor of all beasts." Whoosh! A beam of black light engulfed everything. It swallowed the sword qi and blasted towards the elder of the Z family. The elder of the Z family only had time to use his divine power to block the light of destruction. However, he was blown away by the force. He flew thousands of meters in the air before coming to a stop. Ouch! Fuck! My divine power is gone. The divine bird did not have much divine power left. It could only support this attack. It did not kill the elder of the Z family. Instead, its own divine power was completely used up. It fell from Yi Qinghan's shoulder to the ground. Fortunately, there was the divine bird. Yi Qinghan breathed out a mouthful of turbid air. The pressure was greatly reduced. With a twist of his toes, the god-breaking boxing glove was fully activated. He pushed the 10 directions seal dozens of meters away from the sacred qilin. The sacred qilin was forced to retreat. The pressure was increasing. Screech. Just as the two sides were in a stalemate, Li Feng, who was in the air above the secret realm, grabbed the sword of Godhead and unleashed the sky-splitting strike. The sword qi shattered the realm and blasted towards the elder of the Z family. The elder of the Z family was suddenly attacked by the divine bird. His qi and blood were not flowing smoothly. At this moment, Li Feng's sword was slashing towards him. He did not have much strength to resist. If he could not resist, he could only dodge. Whoosh! The elder of the Z family fled thousands of meters away. He stood outside God Extinction Mountain and used a moment to adjust his breathing. He finally stabilized his qi and blood. He coldly looked at Li Feng coming with the sword. "Fellow cultivator, this matter has nothing to do with you." The elder of the Z family warned coldly. "It has something to do with me in the mythical realm. Are you going to scram, or do you want me to beat you until you scram?" Li Feng stepped forward aggressively. The godhead entered his body. The sharp sword in his hand was ready to be unsheathed at any time. The sword's whistling sound shook thousands of miles away. The elder of the Z family was stopped by Li Feng. Yi Qinghan's tense divine sense finally relaxed. The soul of the great elder of the Hollow Spirit sect had escaped. If he wanted to reconstruct the body, it would be difficult to do so without thousands of years. Just like ancestor Qingyu, he was no longer a threat to Yi Qinghan. Now, only the sacred qilin was left. Even if he could not kill him, he could protect himself. Screech. Li Feng descended on the battlefield. His fingertips moved the hilt of his sword. The sword qi cut through the void and let out a crisp sword whistle. The elder of the Z family was not stable after being hit by Yi Qinghan's continuous punches. At this time, he had no chance of winning against Li Feng. Li Feng was another existence comparable to Yi Qinghan. He was even stronger than Yi Qinghan. Such an existence who relied on a mortal body to become a legend was terrifying. The elder of the Z family saw that he had lost his chance. The sacred Qilin did not have much of an advantage against Yi Qinghan. He knew that today's plan had failed. He could not help but groan. Let's go. The sacred Qilin unleashed its divine power and deflected the 10-direction seal, flattening a mountain range. It followed the elder of the Z family and fled to the southern wilderness. They escaped from the greedy wolf dimension back to the clear moon dimension. Yi Qinghan was powerless to chase after them. At this moment, he was truly at the end of his rope. If it were not for the kingdom of all spirits lending him power, he would not even be able to defeat a half-step lord, let alone 1 against 3 and cripple the great elder of the Hollow Spirit sect. Boom! Yi Qinghan knelt on the ground. He supported himself with both hands and panted. He could not even speak a word. Chapter 771. Yi Qinghan was very tired, so tired that he couldn't even lift his hand. A lesser god could kill him. His spiritual pet, Fire Crow, was dead. The multicolored snake was heavily injured. The Pishio was also injured. The divine bird's divine power was exhausted. It was lying on the ground, motionless. Li Feng looked at Yi Qinghan. After a moment of silence, he asked, "What happened all these years? Where did those 3 people come from?" "Back then, when the matter of us killing the elders and disciples of 9-linked mountain was exposed, Shangqing drew a clear line between himself and you in order to clear his name. He then joined forces with 9-linked mountain's lord and exalted greed wolf, and joined forces with the 4 armies of the planar battlefield to suppress my crazed manner. I killed Shangqing, destroyed 3 clear divine kingdom, and destroyed 9-linked mountain. As for those 3 people just now, they were from the clear moon plane. They came for a child, and most importantly, they wanted to kill me." Li Feng was silent again. He saved Shangqing back then. He didn't expect to be abandoned in the end. A person could only be forgiven once. "I understand. Take care of yourself. The next time we meet, I will attack you. I hope you don't disappoint me." Li Feng finished speaking and walked towards the planar battlefield with his sword in hand. He walked further and further away until his figure gradually disappeared. Yi Qinghan was silent. Li Feng was an opponent worthy of respect. If it were anyone else, they would have taken the opportunity to kill Yi Qinghan. There was no need to leave a problem for themselves. However, Li Feng didn't do anything. He only wanted to prove the supreme Tao in his heart. The true legendary Tao. No one could go against him. No one could be taken seriously by him. Yeyang Pass and Dongling Pass opened. The army rushed towards Yi Qinghan. The divine bird straightened its legs. Its body was stiff. It opened its eyes and said, "This divine bird was scared to death. I thought I couldn't escape this time." Yi Qinghan's 5 fingers pierced through the rock and he looked up at the collapsed mountain peak. He knew that the fire crow would not appear again. It was a spiritual pet that had followed him for close to 1,000 years. Although it was not as capable as the colorful snake or the god-slaying eagle, it had sacrificed its life for him. "I will definitely avenge you." Yi Qinghan's entire body tensed up. His injured body ruptured once again and blood flowed out. The Pai Xiu brought the multicolored snake back. There were a few bloody holes on its body and it almost died. The multicolored snake in its mouth was badly mutilated and its breath was weak. It almost had no life force. The star-twining vine was even more miserable. Its entire body was bare and all its vines were destroyed. Now, it couldn't even stretch out a single main vine. "First, give each of them a divine pellet to hang on to their lives and carry me back." Yi Qinghan fell to the ground, without the slightest bit of strength. Right now, he didn't even have the strength to speak. Lu Zhantian brought a group of elites over and placed Yi Qinghan, Pai Xiu, and the other divine beasts beside Yi Qinghan before flying straight to Quang Manor. In the dimensional battlefield, Emperor Yi carried Qin Wentian and fled frantically. Occasionally, he would attack the souls of the 7 people to buy time and increase the distance between them. However, the 7 experts pursued relentlessly, unaware that one of the 3 half-step sovereigns had already been injured and 2 had fled. Qin Wentian hugged Emperor Ye's neck, her eyes filled with fear. She didn't understand why they were chasing after her and trying to kill her. Now, she could only rely on Emperor Yi. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. 8 figures flew into the sky and burrowed into the ground. The various armies on the dimensional battlefield didn't dare to stop them. After all, the 8 high gods were all top-notch experts. The armies couldn't stop them. Yi Qinghan was now powerless to support Emperor Yi. The other soldiers couldn't interfere in the battle between the high gods. The inner sect was empty. Emperor Yi could only run for his life and enter the desert dimension. This was a wasteland. The people here were tough and strong. However, there were very few resources and many dangerous places. It wasn't a suitable place for survival. Emperor Yi patted Qin Wentian and comforted her gently, "Don't be afraid. We'll go look for reinforcements." Di Longtian and Lin Wuxian were leading a group of children to the forest origin dimension. That place was full of vitality and opportunities. They were all of the younger generation. There were no supreme existences to make things difficult for them. They had a smooth time playing around for more than 30 years. The children had all grown up. Yi Qintian was the first to become a high god. He was only 30 years old. For a cultivator, 30 years old was equivalent to 7 or 8 years old for a mortal. He was absolutely terrifying. As expected of someone who called himself Great God Qintian. He was arrogant and domineering. He was even more arrogant than Yi Qinghan. Now that he had become a man, he was very mighty. Di Longtian and Yi Qintian had been influenced by the divine bird since they were young. They were both extremely intelligent people. Their little calculations came one after another. Their slogan was, "Everything is for resources." More than 30 children had been brought out by Di Longtian and Lin Wuxian since they were 7 or 8 years old. With their current combat strength, it was easy for them to join forces and eliminate a few high gods. Especially the existence known as Great God Qintian. His combat strength was probably not inferior to the older generation. The distance between the forest origin dimension and the desert dimension was only a matter of a border river. Emperor Yi had long known that they were there. Hence, he had a clear goal. He crossed the desert dimension and the border river, rushing into the forest origin dimension. During this time, he was almost surrounded several times. The 7 of them were still chasing after him. They were running out of godly energy and could only rely on godly medicines to sustain themselves. Emperor Yi had 2 godhoods, so his consumption rate was half of the others. In addition, the godly medicines in his possession were all top-notch tier 15. It was possible for him to exhaust these high gods to death. After fleeing for half a month, Emperor Yi disappeared into the depths of a mountain range. The 7 great powerhouses followed closely behind him. They did not even bother to check if there were any powerhouses in the forest source dimension. When it came to the strength of dimensions, the clear moon dimension was considered one of the most powerful dimensions among the middle dimensions. Relying on the 3 great half-step lords, they were absolutely fearless. Di Longtian and more than 30 people were currently in this mountain range. This mountain range was very famous. It was equivalent to a secret zone in the clear moon dimension. Divine energy filled the air, and there were divinity crystal mines everywhere. However, it was also very dangerous. There were too many mutated divine beasts. Usually, no one would come here. Di Longtian and his group were the first to come here. This was because there were not many powerhouses in the forest origin dimension. Buzzed out a strand of zither music filled the air. It rushed into the depths of the secret zone and startled countless wild beasts. Emperor Yi was warning them. He was asking for help. Di Longtian and Lin Wuqian were stunned. This strand of zither music was too familiar. Why is my mother here? Yi Qintian asked in surprise. Go back to help. Idiot. Di Longtian roared and transformed into a dragon coiling in the sky, rushing outside. Lin Wuqian led a group of juniors and also rushed out. They drew their swords and were ready to fight. More than 30 juniors were all inner sect disciples. Their parents' excellent bloodlines had long been passed down. Their secret techniques were even more advanced. They never lacked resources. How could their combat strength be weak? Whoosh whoosh whoosh. More than 30 silhouettes shuttled back and forth in the sky above the forest, chasing each other. They quickly rushed to the central region and met up with Renhuang Yi. When they saw that Renhuang Yi was actually carrying a child in his arms, they were very astonished. They couldn't understand where this 4 or 5-year-old brat had come from. Mother, what's wrong? Yi Qintian asked curiously. 7 high gods, prepare for battle. Emperor Yi carried Qin Wentian to Yi Qintian's neck and instructed, this is your wife. Protect her well. It's fine if you lose an arm or a leg, but don't hurt her. Chapter 772. Wife. Yi Qintian was confused. Since when did he have a wife? And she was so young. She probably needed someone to feed her. Everyone burst into laughter. Looking at the confused Qin Wentian, they laughed even more crazily. At this moment, even the silent Lin Wuqian's mouth twitched. He couldn't help but laugh. This cheap wife had come too suddenly. Yi Qintian couldn't get used to it, and neither could the others. They had completely ignored the arrival of the 7 supreme gods. Void God Yi and Yi Yun looked at each other. Since when did they have a sister-in-law? And she was so young. Looking at her mother's reaction, it didn't seem fake. Your father arranged a marriage for you. Protect her well. If anything happens to her, your father will break your legs. Emperor Yi took a deep breath and called out the emperor's zither. He adjusted the music and prepared for a fight to the death. At this time, everyone was on high alert. Di Longtian and Lin Wuqian looked at each other and flew to 2 sides of a valley. They held their swords and looked into the distance. Outside the valley, 7 figures were rushing quickly. Spread out. Yi Qintian, as the king of the children, had a lot of prestige. With a wave of his hand, more than 30 youths spread out and cast a big net, waiting for the fish to fall into it. Wine. Emperor Yi played the zither, and a murderous aura spread out, shaking people's hearts. The entire valley was filled with killing intent. The 7 high gods were disdainful. Emperor Yi had hurriedly escaped from the mythological realm. Could it be that he could predict the future and set up a trap here in advance? Even if he set up a trap here, what could the 7 high gods do? Therefore, the 7 high gods were extremely powerful. They emitted a powerful aura that startled countless wild beasts and birds, causing them to flee in all directions. Hum, 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 the music suddenly changed and became manic. Even the high gods couldn't control it and had to suppress it. This was Emperor Ye's personal music. When the children heard her music, they didn't feel any pressure. Instead, they felt their blood boil. However, the 7 high gods were different. Their expressions changed, and they felt their blood rushing to their heads. Their divine power was agitated, causing their blood to run wildly. They were about to explode. Humph. You don't know life from death. Hand over the child and I'll let you die in one piece. Who is it? Come out. A high god noticed the group of youths and immediately pulled out his sword. Di Longtian and Lin Wuqian burst forth at the same time. Sword chi pierced through the mountains and rivers. Great Nirvana sword art. The two of them were as fast as lightning. The 7 high gods had discovered Void God Yi and the others, but they did not realize that there were 2 high gods hiding behind them. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Di Longtian's heavenly Dao killing god sword was not inferior to Lin Wuqian's solitary sword Dao. He slashed out 3 sword rays and pierced through the bodies of 2 high gods. The sword chi was extremely sharp and directly erased the vitality of the 2 experts. In the blink of an eye, the 2 high gods had been killed, and only one was left. The remaining high gods were shocked, and they hurriedly attacked Lin Wuqian and Di Longtian, wanting to kill the 2 high gods. At this moment, Yi Qintian activated the 5 elements and brought Qin Wentian down from a tree. His chi energy destroyed everything in its path, shattering the rocks on the ground. Is great god Qintian's mother someone trash like you dare to profane? Boom! Yi Qintian's fist directly smashed the head of a high god into his stomach. Fresh blood splattered everywhere. Qin Wentian was so frightened that his face turned pale. He immediately buried his face in Yi Qintian's hair. Bang! God power poured into the high god's body, shattering his bones. His godhead was directly grasped in Yi Qintian's hand. This was Yi Qinghan's son, great god Qintian. After killing a high god, he raised his beautiful hair and said disdainfully, I, great god Qintian, have always been invincible. I haven't met a worthy opponent in 30 years. Small shrimps like you can't even withstand a single blow. In the blink of an eye, there were only 4 high gods left. More than 30 young men and women rushed out in groups of 10. Each group had their own division of offense and defense. This was especially true for the heavenly sword body, which was born with a sword. Although he had yet to break through to the high god level, his battle prowess could cross realms. His sword was even better than his own hand. His battle prowess was actually comparable to Yi Qinghan's when he was young. With Emperor Ye's support, the 30 young experts were incomparably powerful. In the blink of an eye, the 4 high gods were suppressed. The 7 high gods didn't even last for the time it takes an incense stick to burn before dying. Not bad, ha ha ha. Di Longtian laughed loudly. Before long, his ancient massacre god would have 7 more experts. Emperor Yi wasn't in a good mood. He stood up with his guqin and said in a low voice, follow me home immediately. When I escaped, 3 half-step lords surrounded Master. I don't know what's going on now. What? Half-step lords surrounded him. Yi Qintian, Yi Shushan, and his sister were shocked. Yi Qinghan was their spiritual pillar. They saw him as a hero. Di Longtian's feelings for Yi Qinghan were no less than Yi Qintian's. In fact, his feelings for Yi Qinghan were even deeper than the 3 siblings. This was because Yi Qinghan had never raised the 3 children. However, Di Longtian had grown up with Yi Qinghan. Roar! Di Longtian summoned the heavenly dragon within him and roared at everyone, follow me and kill. More than 30 people rushed onto the dragon and soared into the sky with Di Longtian. They crossed realms and charged toward the desert realm. At that moment, Yi Qinghan had been bedridden for half a month. His divine body was severely damaged, and it was difficult for him to recover quickly in one go. The divine bird had merely exhausted its divine power. It would be alive and kicking after a day. However, Fire Crow had died tragically, and the Startwining Vine and the Rainbow Snake were severely injured. It was as if a rock was stuck in Yi Qinghan's throat. He could not swallow this resentment. At that moment, Roger was guarding by Yi Qinghan's side, not leaving his side at all. Have you found out where Huang He is? Yi Qinghan asked in a low voice. Master, according to our intelligence, Madam has already passed through the desert realm and entered the forest realm. As far as I know, young Master, little Tian, and the rest of the ancient massacre gods are in that realm. Madam must have gone to them for help, Roger said hurriedly. Yi Qinghan exhaled, clenched his fists, and asked, "What about Li Feng? Where did he go?" "I don't know. He hasn't appeared since the last time he left the realm. However, when he passed through the dimensional battlefield, he sent a message saying that he'll be back in 3 years to fight you. He wants you to be prepared." Roger's eyes were filled with worry. Li Feng was just too terrifying. Anyone would be terrified if he targeted them. Yi Qinghan, however, was not worried. This battle would come sooner or later. If Li Feng wanted to fight, he wanted to fight even more. Everyone wanted to be the true invincible. Half a month later, Emperor Yi rushed back to the mythical realm with the children and headed straight for Crazy Manor. He even forgot the rules and flew directly above the manor. Emperor Yi flew into the manor. When he found out that Yi Qinghan was fine, he could not help but cry tears of joy. Facing the attack of 3 half-step lords, 30% was luck, 30% was ability, and 30% was Li Feng. This debt of gratitude could not be ignored. A large group of children rushed into the manor. When Yi Qintian saw that Yi Qinghan was fine, he immediately went berserk. He pulled Qin Wentian off his neck and asked, "Dad, where did you get this wife for me?" Chapter 773. The originally oppressive atmosphere was lifted by great god Qin Tian's words. Qin Wentian innocently looked at Yi Qinghan. He didn't understand what wife meant and asked, "What's a wife? Can it be eaten?" "Ha ha ha," a group of young men and women laughed crazily outside the door. Emperor Yi, who was always serious, covered his mouth and laughed secretly. This daughter-in-law was too cute. Yi Qintian rolled his eyes and sat on the edge of the bed powerlessly. He said in annoyance, "How can I, a great god, marry a 4-year-old child? Father, you are trying to ruin my reputation." Yi Qinghan was silent for a moment. He didn't know how to explain it to Yi Qintian, so he said, "You don't understand and I can't explain it to you. In these 15 years, you must accompany her as she grows up. Wherever you go, she will go. Wherever she goes, you will go. You cannot be separated. If you still object after 15 years, I will not force you." 15 years? My God, you mean I have to take care of her for these 15 years? I can't leave her. Yi Qintian was anxious. How could his restless heart be restrained by a 4-year-old child? Yes. You can't leave her for the next 15 years. You'll have to personally take care of her. Everything will have to wait for 15 years, when she's officially an adult. Only then will you have the freedom to choose, Yi Qinghan said with certainty. Father, you are too stubborn. In my heart, you are a great hero without any flaws. It's over, it's over. My father's image in my heart has completely collapsed. Yi Qintian covered his face and shouted. The people outside laughed. Luo Jie couldn't hold it in anymore and ran out of the room. He pounded the wall and laughed. Tears were about to flow out. You have no choice. If you dare to run away, I will catch you and break your legs, Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Yi Qintian was speechless. He looked at Qin Wentian in despair. He couldn't understand why his powerful father would make such a decision. Qin Wentian still didn't understand what wife was. He sat on the bed and looked up at great god Qin Tian's drooping face. He reached out and pinched Qin Tian's nose as if he was coaxing a child. He said, "Children shouldn't frown. You must smile at life, Yi Qintian." PSSH. Emperor Yi laughed until his stomach hurt. Now that the danger had passed, he was in a particularly good mood. He looked at Yi Qinghan's pale face and felt his heart ache. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, "All of you can go out. Let father have a good rest. The plane has been dangerous recently. Try not to run around." Yi Qintian had no choice but to carry his so-called wife out of the room. Only Emperor Yi and Yi Qinghan were left in the room. The two of them had not seen each other for decades and had almost left each other forever. Their hearts were throbbing. Yi Qinghan looked at Emperor Ye's pained expression and his heart ached even more. He pulled Emperor Yi into his arms and said gently, "My son, you've worked hard. Thank you for all these years. I'm fine. Lie down and tell me what happened to Wentian. Why did you suddenly want to marry her to that brat? His personality is destined to be unstable. I'm afraid it's a little inappropriate for him to have the same personality as you," Emperor Yi asked. "She has the ethereal constitution, one of the 10 great primal chaos constitutions. It is ranked third along with the void constitution and belongs to the lineage of the great demonic god. She has yet to unlock her inherited memories. Now, we can either choose to kill her or conquer her. I believe that human emotions can overcome everything." "What fate seed?" "It's nothing," Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. "Then should we tell Qintian?" Emperor Yi frowned and asked. "Don't tell him. I don't want him to do something with a motive, especially when it comes to emotions. Once he has a motive, it will be very difficult for him to truly fall in love with Wentian. If he can fall in love with Wentian when she comes of age, that would be the best." Yi Qinghan shook his head. "But the success rate of this will be very low," Emperor Yi said worriedly. "All love is because of habit. When you get used to each other's existence, it will transform into the most intense love, and finally, kinship." They accompanied each other for 15 years, and Qintian took care of her like a child. Wentian enjoyed this feeling, and I believe that the feelings between them will transform into an eternal habit that will last until death. Yi Qinghan looked at Emperor Yi as he smiled. "Just like how you and I will never betray each other." Emperor Yi sighed. However, Wentian wasn't her. She didn't have the fate seed, and there was no barrier between them. Naturally, she would enjoy this kind of care. "Don't worry, I have a backup plan. Even if Wentian is controlled by the fate seed, she won't be able to escape from my grasp. Naturally, I will only use this as a last resort. I'd rather she be able to overcome everything, and not let down my efforts to protect her down," Yi Qinghan confidently said. Emperor Yi was relieved when he heard this. The fact that Yi Qinghan had a backup plan meant that he had already considered the worst-case scenario. There was no need to worry. The 3 half-step lords had failed to kill Yi Qinghan, and in the end, both sides suffered great losses. The Void Spirit Sect's Grand Elder fled immediately and entered the sect's forbidden secret zone to reconstruct his golden body. Without 1,000 years, it was impossible for him to return to peak condition. The sacred Qilin was also slightly injured. He knew that in the mythical realm, Yi Qinghan had the support of the kingdom of God, and it would be difficult for him to fight alone. In the end, he gave up on the plan to launch a surprise attack on Yi Qinghan. After all, he didn't know whether Li Feng had left the realm or not. If he hadn't and was attacked by Li Feng and Yi Qinghan instead, he would definitely die. The old man from the Z family was still unwilling to give up. Now that he was alone, it was difficult for him to do anything. Whether or not he could kill Yi Qinghan was another matter altogether, let alone snatch Qin Wentian's godhead. A year later, the old man from the Z family appeared in the most powerful realm among the 3,000 middle realms, the Sisui realm. This was the largest realm, and there were even more powerhouses. There were dozens of half-step lords alone, and there were no fewer than 5 who were on par with 9 Gloom. A realm like this rarely interacted with other realms. Most powerhouses came here from other realms on a pilgrimage. The Sisui realm's surface area was equivalent to 3,000 times that of the Clear Moon realm and more than 10,000 times that of the mythical realm. The entire surface area of the mythical realm was equivalent to a prefecture in the Sisui realm. There were no kingdoms here, only super sects and clans. Any clan could crush a kingdom from another realm. The buildings from the chaotic era were still preserved here. The aura of chaos permeated the air, and it was comparable to the upper realms. No one knew if there were any lord-level existences hidden here. Such people generally wouldn't appear for no reason. Once they did, they would definitely attract even more powerful existences to fight for the lord-level divine spark. The old man from the Z family went straight to the Tuoba family. The Tuoba family was considered one of the super forces in the Sisui realm. Most importantly, they had a heritage from the chaotic era, and their foundation was unfathomable. No one dared to provoke them. Even if there were existences on par with Nine Gloom, they would try their best not to provoke the Tuoba family. The Z family was only a servant sent by the Tuoba family. The Tuoba family had countless servants like the Z family. Some families had left the Tuoba family due to the passage of time. However, there were still dozens of families that were under their control. Chapter 774. The Sisui Plain could only be described as vast. The Tuoba family was considered to be very powerful, but aside from their background, their strength on the surface would at most be ranked in the upper middle tier of the Sisui Plain. The most powerful organization, Ni Yunduan, was so powerful that no one could see its background. No one could shake its position. 30,000 years ago, there were still traces of sovereigns. The Qingshan continent of the Sisui realm was one of the 81 continents. It was thousands of times larger than the mythical dimension, but the Tuoba family occupied half of it. The other half was divided equally among several major organizations. The old man from the Z family had gone through a lot of trouble and spent a lot of money to teleport here through a large space gateway. He headed straight for the Tuoba family. The Tuoba family was majestic and ancient. These buildings alone were of great value. Even Elder Ni Yunduan would come here personally to study the mysteries of this place. As an organization that had inherited from the chaos, these buildings were protected by formations. It was difficult to break through without lords. However, the supreme-grade divine crystals required to activate the formations were immeasurable. Therefore, the Tuoba family would not activate the formations usually. Once they were activated, the light would shine so brightly that the entire Qingshan continent could see it clearly. The old man from the Z family encountered a checkpoint outside the Tuoba family. He was stopped by the Tuoba family's city guards. He entered the family's outer perimeter. Without a name, he could not enter. Once someone attacked the outer perimeter and the family could not resist, the inner perimeter would activate the formations. Therefore, no one dared to provoke the Tuoba family. I'm Z Chongyun, the Grand Elder of the Z family from the Qingyue realm. I have an important matter to discuss with the family leader, the old man said in a deep voice. Although he was a half-step lord, the city guard's commander-in-chief did not give him face. He only said calmly, "Wait here." The commander-in-chief signaled a messenger to ask for instructions from the family elders. Soon, a person rushed into the depths. Z Chongyun did not dare to barge in. He was only a servant of the Tuoba family. At most, he was an outer member. He had to bow when he saw the family's direct descendants. He knew how powerful the Tuoba family was. He also knew that although the Tuoba family was not a top organization in the Chaos era, they were still powerful. An hour later, the messenger rushed back and said softly, "Sir, the third elder wants to see him." Take him to see the third elder. Don't let him barge in recklessly." The commander nodded and said. The messenger led Zi Chongyun to the inner part of the Tuoba family. As they passed by the outer part, Zi Chongyun looked at the outer forces with envy. He couldn't help but be envious. The divinity here was too strong. Even the outer part was comparable to the secret zone of the Z family. It was very suitable for cultivation. Therefore, there were countless masters in the Tuoba family. Even the children were much stronger than their peers in other places. However, the competition here was also extremely cruel. Every year, the children would be tested on their talent and cultivation. Those who were eliminated would be directly transferred to the branch family, and if the branch family discovered a genius, they would immediately be promoted to the direct line. The treatment they enjoyed was unimaginable. Some wore ragged clothes, looking like beggars, while others wore luxurious clothes, looking extremely noble. An hour later, they arrived at the interior. There was a towering wall carved with runes. Like the tomb of the god of sin, it was indestructible. Ordinary siege crossbows had no effect on it at all. With half-step lords as weapons and 100,000 of them, they might be able to break through the defenses here. There were 10 top-level high gods guarding the city gates, and there were mid-level high gods serving as soldiers and high gods serving as officers. This was an impenetrable palace. Zi Chongyun was stunned. In the past, he had only communicated with the peripheral elders of the Tuoba family through voice transmission. He had never been here before. Now, he was completely stunned. This was a true super powerhouse, an unshakable force. They could crush a small or medium dimension with just a finger. With the third elder's message, the guards did not stop them. They allowed the messenger to bring Zi Chongyun into the interior of the family. A chaotic aura of vicissitudes filled the air. The qi here could no longer be described as divine qi. It was completely liquid divine power surging. The palace was intricate and complex. Divine trees and divine herbs were everywhere. There were huge mountains, waterfalls, and everything else. This was a blessed place, not a family force. The young men who walked around were all high gods. They were as handsome as jade and peerless elites. The women were unparalleled in their generation. They were the cream of the crop. Zi Chongyun's appearance surprised the young men and women. It was rare for outsiders to enter the family unless they were lords. Even half-step lords found it difficult to enter the inner family territory. Greetings, young masters and princesses. I am the elder of the Zi family in Qingyue Dimension. The Zi family has been loyal to the Tuoba family for generations. I am here today to meet you. Zi Chongyun bowed. Greetings, young Master Yun, young Master Jian, and Princess Ling. The third elder asked me to bring him into the mysterious dragon pavilion to meet him. The messenger bowed and said, Go ahead. Don't let the third elder wait. Tuoba Yun, who was in the lead, looked like an elegant young master. He was definitely a top powerhouse of the younger generation. Zi Chongyun saw that the three of them had no intention of communicating with him. He immediately bowed and left. The mysterious dragon pavilion was a courtyard that resembled a tall tower. There were no guards. The gate of the courtyard was wide open. There were many artificial mountains in the courtyard. The divine lotus in the pond was about to transform and leave. However, it was suppressed by the formation and exuded a majestic spiritual aura. Come in. Zi Chongyun had just arrived when an ancient voice sounded. It made one's hair stand on end. This voice seemed to come from ancient times and was filled with the power of ancient times. The messenger retreated. Zi Chongyun entered the courtyard respectfully. The door opened automatically. A staircase spiraled upwards as if it led to the dome. He walked all the way to the third floor. The path was sealed. He turned right and saw a door that was engraved with runes. It shone with a golden light. Lord Elder, I, Zi Chongyun, have important news to report. Zi Chongyun bowed and said to the door. Whoosh! The door opened automatically again. The divine light was dazzling. An old man was sitting at the door. He had white hair and a celestial aura. He suppressed Zi Chongyun so much that he did not dare to breathe loudly. Although they were all half-step lords, there were differences in strength as well. For example, Yi Qinghan was able to kill most of the high gods in the high god temple, but it was difficult for him to shake Li Feng. At every level, there would always be a portion of them who were extraordinary and could not be resisted. I've heard about it from Tuoba Feng. Describe it in detail so that I can confirm whether that child has the legendary battle constitution, Third Elder Tuoba Kwangjuan said in a low voice. That child can disappear into thin air and pass through wooden doors. She can even hold a speeding sword in her hand without moving. Moreover, she has no cultivation base at all. This is shocking. Zi Chongyun bowed and replied. Where's that child now? You're a half-step lord. Can't you even get a child? Tuoba Kwangjuan stood up slowly. He was about 1.8 meters tall and looked dignified. His ancient divine robe fluttered without wind. He looked directly at Zi Chongyun, and the latter dared not look up. She has a young powerhouse protecting her. I was about to succeed, but another supreme god broke through in the mythical realm. That supreme god's aura was so terrifying that it shook heaven and earth. A giant dragon coiled and a godly phoenix was willing to be its mount. The 7 godhoods could leave the sea of consciousness and turn into swords. He attacked so forcefully that I had no choice. Zi Chongyun hurriedly explained. He bowed and his legs were trembling. It was obvious that he was afraid of Tuoba Kwangjuan. Chapter 775. Tuoba Kwangjuan looked down at Zi Chongyun with a hint of disdain at the corner of his lips. He had lived for so long, but this was the first time he had heard of a half-step lord being scared off by a young man who had just broken through to high god. What a joke. You're saying that the 3 of you half-step lords couldn't take down 2 beginner-stage upper-rank priests, and that one of you was severely injured by a young man while the other 2 suffered minor injuries. Tuoba Kwangjuan did not believe it. Any half-step lord would not believe it unless Yi Qinghan and Li Feng had the legendary 10 combat constitutions. Perhaps they stood a chance. Yes. No. That Yi Qinghan used some strange secret method to borrow the power of countless living beings in the entire kingdom. His aura is comparable to a half-step lord's. That's why we couldn't take him down even when we joined forces. Moreover, he has the blood of the colossal dragon and possibly the inheritance of the witch tribe. Zi Chongyun forced a smile, not daring to refute. How interesting. Someone can mobilize force in such a small realm. The blood of the colossal dragon, the inheritance of the witch tribe, the 5 elemental Tao body. The bloodline of the chaos giant god that has disappeared for a long time is all in one person. How interesting. I'm intrigued. However, I don't understand. Why would the blood of the colossal dragon and the inheritance of the witch tribe protect the ethereal spirit constitution? What went wrong? Tuoba Kwangjuan tapped the stone table with his fingertips. His white hair fluttered as he lifted his head and walked to the window to look at the starry sky. His eyes pierced through the void. Even though it was daytime, he could see the sun, moon, and stars. Zi Chongyun dared not disrupt Tuoba Kwangjuan's thoughts. He bowed and dared not say anything. Go down and wait. I'll get the young disciples of the Tuoba family to accompany you to summon Yi Qinghan and Qin Wentian. If they're not convinced, capture them alive. You're in charge of leading the way. There must be no mistakes this time, understand? Tuoba Kwangjuan said in a low voice. Yes, my lord. This old servant will definitely not let Yi Qinghan escape again. Zi Chongyun vowed solemnly. No need. You just have to lead the way. Someone from the Tuoba family will deal with Yi Qinghan, Tuoba Kwangjuan said coldly. In the mythological dimension, Yi Qinghan had already recovered. His family was living in harmony. He looked at the group of juniors and carefully guided them. Heavenly deity Chen Tian's temper was beaten up by Yi Qinghan, causing him to become much more obedient. Every day, he would bring his wife around and sigh. When he thought of how dark his days would be in the future, heavenly deity Chen Tian no longer referred to himself as heavenly deity Chen Tian. His hairstyle was messed up and he became the laughing stock of his children. On this day, Qin Wentian rode on Yi Qintian's neck. At this moment, she finally understood what a wife was. Being a child at heart, she didn't care about so many things. She was playful and clung to him all day long. Time passed slowly, and in the blink of an eye, she was already 6 years old. Yi Qinghan was enjoying the bliss of being with his family. He was also bitterly cultivating as he waited for Li Feng's 3-year agreement. There was only 1 year left. However, before the appointment with Li Feng could be made, Zi Chongyun had brought the 4 top-notch young masters of the Tuoba family to the mythical dimension. Tuoba Yun, Tuoba Iguang and Tuoba Su were all outstanding male disciples of the Tuoba family. They were all ranked within the top 10. The other female cultivator, Tuoba Xianxian, wielded an elegant divine sword in her hand. Every step she took was 1,000 miles away, traversing tens of dimensions. She didn't seem tired at all. From this, one could see how high her cultivation base was. The most important thing was that Tuoba Yun and the others actually treated Tuoba Xianxian as their leader. Before they did anything, they would always seek her opinion. Her strength was probably the strongest among the 4 of them. Sister Xianxian, which one of us will make a move later? Why don't you let me make the first move? If you make a move, we won't have a chance. Tuoba Yun smiled. Tuoba Xianxian was about 1.7 meters tall. She wore a man's battle robe and looked valiant. She was even more handsome than the men. Her hair was tied up high, making her look like a swift and decisive person. Her cherry lips revealed a faint smile as she nodded and said, "Summon him first. If he knows what's good for him, he won't make a move. If he doesn't agree, you guys can train first." The 5 experts entered the Grand Desert Dimension and entered the planar battlefield. Their whereabouts were quickly transmitted to the crazed manor. Yi Qinghan looked at the message on the message talisman and frowned. The middle dimension was so vast. There were 3,000 of them. There were many powerful clans and sections. What was a mythical dimension to them? It was normal for a few experts to appear. All pass lords, immediately seal off all the gateways. Yi Qinghan transmitted his voice. The lords at the gateways all activated their defensive barriers and prepared for battle. When Yi Qintian saw Yi Qinghan's serious expression, he knew that his chance had come. He said, "Father, if there's anything you need great God Qintian to do, just tell me. Put Wentian down and follow me out to meet the enemy," Yi Qinghan said calmly. "Ha ha ha, I was waiting for you to say that." Great God Qintian was overjoyed. He had finally gotten rid of this child. He hurriedly pulled Qin Wentian down from his neck and said solemnly, "Little wife, your husband is going out to fight. Wait for me at home. I'll be back in 3 to 5 years if I'm fast, or 10 years if I'm slow." Qin Wentian curled his lips and said disdainfully, "Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? Uncle said that we're going out to meet the enemy, but he didn't ask you to leave the middle dimension. Come back tomorrow and don't think about running around." Yi Qintian was speechless. Yi Qinghan shook his head and called Di Longtian and Lin Wuqian over. Now that all the experts of the inner sect had gone out, they could only rely on the help of these 3 juniors. Emperor Yi also followed. Now, there were only 4 high gods in the inner sect. However, their strength was not inferior to the older generation. Lin Wuqian had inherited Gu Qingyu's legacy, Di Longtian had the heavenly Tao killing god sword, Yi Qintian had inherited Yi Qinghan's legacy, and his talent was shocking. As for the remaining Emperor Yi, his strength was needless to say. The 4 of them headed towards Yayang Pass. That was the only way to get to Quang Manor from the planar battlefield. An hour later, the 4 of them appeared on the walls of Yayang Pass. They looked ahead and waited for Zi Chongyun to arrive. In less than the time it took for 3 incense sticks to burn, Zi Chongyun brought Tuoba Xianxian and the others to Yayang Pass. Yi Qintian's battle-intent sword. He could finally vent the anger that he had suppressed for 2 years. Yi Qing Han, these four are the inner disciples of the Tuoba family from Sisui realm. They are here on the orders of the Tuoba family's third elder to summon you. You may not know the Tuoba family, but you can ask the older generation of high gods. They will tell you their identities, Zi Chongyun said proudly. Summon him. Yi Qing Han was disdainful. Even the emperor would not allow him to summon him. The so-called Tuoba family only sent a few juniors to summon him. They thought too highly of themselves. Have you lost your mind from the beating? How can I, great god Qintian's father, allow others to summon him? What bullshit third elder? Ask him to come and see my father. Yi Qintian said majestically and angrily. You are courting death. Tuoba Yun's aura changed as he said coldly. Whether I am courting death or not, you will know once you try. I will beat you until your own mother can't recognize you. Yi Qintian flew down the wall and landed at the gate. He walked towards the four people step by step. Yi Qing Han did not say anything to stop him. He believed in Yi Qintian's strength and knew that he wanted to vent his anger. Chapter 776. Tuoba Yun's expression changed. Even the side-branch disciples of the Tuoba family could do whatever they wanted in the Sisui realm. Now that he, an inner disciple, had come to a small place like the mythological realm, he was being mocked. It was as if a rich second generation had come to a remote place and was told that he was poor. Brat, since you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me for being impolite. Tuoba Yun walked towards Yi Qintian. He's still a kid. Just teach him a lesson. Tuoba Xianxian was the backbone of this operation. She wanted to bring Qin Wentian and Yi Qing Han away without shedding any blood. She didn't want to hurt their relationship. Tuoba Yun didn't dare to go against Tuoba Xuanxuan's will. He didn't draw his sword and walked towards Yi Qintian with his bare hands. When they were 300 meters apart, Yi Qintian suddenly sped up and punched towards Tuoba Yun. Hua! The sound of space shattering reverberated. Tuoba Yun was disdainful. He was from a primal chaos family. How could he be scared by a kid? Just a facade. Tuoba Yun muttered to himself. He clenched his fists and changed his stance quickly. He stabilized his stance and punched out. Bang! The iron fists collided, causing the earth to rupture. Qi rushed into the river of stars, and gravel filled the air, covering the sky and covering the sun. Crack, the sound of bones cracking could be heard. Tuoba Yun groaned and was forced back a few steps by Yi Qintian. Lie down. Yi Qintian didn't retreat. Instead, he moved forward and kicked Tuoba Yun's head. Tuoba Yun reacted quickly. As he retreated, he used his right elbow to hit Yi Qintian's leg. If this hit, Yi Qintian's leg would be broken. Yi Qintian's eyes shone brightly. He kicked Tuoba Yun's right elbow with his left leg and took the opportunity to withdraw his right leg. He flew backwards and dodged Tuoba Yun's attack. Yi Qing Han frowned. He knew that Yi Qintian was too anxious and missed a good opportunity. Yi Qintian landed on the ground unhappily. He sneered and veins popped out all over his body. More than half of his blood had evolved into dragon blood. The 5 elements flowed through his body and the 5 elements shone brightly. His body was almost transparent. Even the veins on his skin could be seen clearly. 5 elements dragon fist. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Using wind mark, Yi Qinghan's speed was extremely fast. He was almost a replica of Yi Qinghan. He had inherited everything. His right fist punched towards Tuoba Yun's head, and his left fist hooked towards Tuoba Yun's jaw. His moves were smooth and fluid, and he was using a low-grade martial technique. There was no trace of the profoundness of a high god, but he was fast and powerful. Of all the martial arts in the world, only speed could not be defeated, only strength could not be defeated. When one's speed and strength reached the pinnacle, that was the essence of the great Tao. It was more useful than any secret technique or law. Tuoba Yun continued to resist and exchange blows with Yi Qinghan. However, he did not expect that Yi Qinghan's 5-elemental Tao body was inherited from Yi Qinghan. His physical body was extremely strong. At this moment, it was as if he was fighting against Yi Qinghan when he was young. Within the same cultivation level, Yi Qinghan had never been defeated. The only opponent that Yi Qinghan considered worthy was Li Feng. Boom! Crack. Yi Qingtian's fist broke Tuoba Yun's right arm. His left fist missed, but Tuoba Yun screamed and his body leaned to the left. Knee strike. Elbow strike. Yi Qingtian's every punch and kick shook the spacetime, forcing Tuoba Yun to retreat. Tuoba Yun was sent flying dozens of meters away by a knee strike. Pa! Yi Qingtian went against the flow and attacked Tuoba Yun with both his knees and elbows. He was like a killing machine. Every inch of his skin and bones had become the strongest weapon. Boom! Tuoba Yun blocked with both hands, but he could not block Yi Qingtian's attack. His chest was almost pierced through. He coughed out blood and flew backward. Bang! Yi Qingtian landed on the ground and kicked Tuoba Yun's head. Tuoba Yun was stunned and fell to the ground. His head was bleeding, and his face was covered in scratches. Yi Qingtian was about to rush up and beat him up, but Yi Qinghan said, "Come back. I'm going to kill you." Tuoba Yun summoned his divine sword. Sword chi surged from his body as he unleashed his peak combat power. Great Nirvana swordsmanship. Swish! Swish! Yi Qingtian's reaction was faster. A sharp sword appeared in his hand and pierced through the mountains and rivers. 3 sword rays pierced through the void and hit Tuoba Yun's chest, abdomen, and thigh. Puff! Tuoba Yun did not know how he was defeated. Blood splattered in the void as his body flew backward and fell in front of Tuoba Xianxian. Tuoba Xuanxuan's expression changed slightly. She frowned and scolded, "Trash. You have cultivated for so many years, but you have no combat experience. You can't even use 10% of your strength." The elites of the Tuoba inner clan were indeed talented. They could even be considered super geniuses. However, they did not have much combat experience, unlike the inner sect members of the Kuang Fu. Every one of them had been through hundreds of battles. Yi Qingtian was especially talented and was often bullied by more than 30 juniors. His combat experience was definitely not bad. It was no wonder that Tuoba Yun lost to Yi Qingtian. Tuoba Yun coughed out blood. He did not even have the chance to use his strength. Otherwise, he would have killed Yi Qingtian. "I'll kill him." Cough. Tuoba Yun coughed out blood and swallowed a few divine pills to stop the blood from spurting out. He drew his sword and was about to attack Yi Qingtian. "Enough. Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? If he wanted to kill you just now, you wouldn't be able to stand up now. You can't even defeat a kid. Go back and cultivate in the Death Demon prison to gain combat experience." Tuoba Xianxian said coldly. Tuoba Yun did not dare to refute. The Death Demon prison was the secret realm of the Tuoba family. There were many criminals and experts imprisoned there. Most of them were the enemies of the Tuoba family. The people there were ruthless and bloodthirsty. They hated the Tuoba family to the extreme. In order to train the true elites, the Tuoba family would send the younger generation to the Death Demon prison to fight with those people. Every expert killed would give them a considerable amount of resources. However, it was very dangerous. Many elites died there. Those who could walk out alive were all top experts. Tuoba Xianxian was one of them. "Qingtian, come back." Yi Qinghan looked at Tuoba Xianxian. He knew that these people were experts among experts. They understood Yi Qingtian's advantage and could easily kill him. Yi Qingtian curled his lips. He wanted to fight again, but Yi Qinghan asked him to go back. He did not dare to disobey. Tuoba Su, you're a high-level high god. If you lose, don't find excuses for me. Go train in the death demon prison like Tuoba Yun. Tuoba Xianxian said coldly. Leave this battle to me. Lin Wuqian hugged his sword and stood there without any aura. If he did not speak, no one would pay attention to him. He was like a sword-hugging boy. Di Longtian shrugged, showing that he did not care. These people's combat strength was about the same. They all had a chance to fight. Whoosh! Lin Wuqian flew through the air and appeared 100 meters away from the city gate. The city wall was surrounded by soldiers. They were all focused on the battle between the high gods. This kind of battle was rare. Lu Zhantian was also watching. He was good at leading troops. In terms of individual combat strength, he was not even comparable to the inner sex children. Chapter 777. Tuoba Su said proudly. As a high god, he was considered one of the best in the Sisui Plain. It was more than enough to deal with Lin Wuqian. Make your move. Otherwise, don't say that I'm bullying the weak. Tuoba Su said disdainfully. Lin Wuqian remained silent. Since Tuoba Su was going easy on him, he might as well make his move. Sword draw. The sword chi pierced through the void, ignoring time and space, and appeared in front of Tuoba Su. There was only one word to describe it. Fast. Tuoba Su's hair stood on end, and his blood froze. He didn't have time to dodge or pull out his sword to block the attack. He could only watch as the sword chi reached his throat. Before the sword chi entered his body, he vomited blood from the impact. Puff, Tuoba Su coughed out blood, and his hair was disheveled. If he couldn't dodge this sword, even his soul might not be able to escape. Whoosh, Tuoba Xuanchuan's figure flashed, and she kicked Tuoba Su away. She was furious. This trash dared to look down on others. Were the children of the Tuoba family all flowers in a greenhouse? They couldn't stand the slightest wind and rain. Bang! Tuoba Su was kicked to the ground by Tuoba Xianxian. His face was smashed into the ground, and his flesh was badly mangled. Sister Xianxian. Tuoba Su's helpless and wronged eyes coupled with his miserable face made him look as pathetic as he could. Scram! You've lost all the face of the Tuoba family. Tuoba Xianxian was furious. She stepped forward and looked at Yi Qinghan. She said coldly, Yi Qinghan, since you don't want to listen to my summons, as long as you can defeat me, I'll take my people and leave. Princess, this person is very strong. We need to work together to deal with him. Otherwise, we're destined to return empty-handed. Zi Chongyun bowed and reminded. A bunch of trash. Scram. Tuoba Xianxian was very powerful. Her aura exploded, and her killing intent soared. She actually sent Zi Chongyun flying. She stepped forward again and stared at Yi Qinghan. Di Longtian was just about to attack when Yi Qinghan stopped him. He shook his head and said, let my son deal with this person. Yi Qinghan. I want you to do it personally. If you don't do it today, I will bring my men and crush the violent dragon empire, Tuoba Xianxian said coldly. Yi Qinghan frowned. He had to be wary of Zi Chongyun, this old fox. Otherwise, if he launched a sneak attack, Emperor Yi might not be able to defend himself. I'll guard against that half-step lord. Let's end this quickly. I can keep an eye on him for 3 breaths, Emperor Yi said in a deep voice as he stared at Zi Chongyun while holding his guqin. Yi Qinghan nodded. 3 breaths was enough. Ding! With berserk in his hand, Yi Qinghan took a step toward the city walls. With every step he took, his aura grew stronger by 30%. His dragon blood boiled as his strength reached its peak. His dragon godhead began to circulate, and the other 10 godheads also began to circulate. Their energy poured out and converged on Berserk. This saber strike could split anyone into two. Boom! Boom! Step by step, the two of them quickly approached each other. Tuoba Xuanxuan's divine power poured out. Her divine power was no less than Yiqinghan's. It surged and roared as her aura soared into the sky. This was the true elite of the Tuoba family. She was only at mid-level high god level, which was one level higher than Yiqinghan. However, she was much stronger than the so-called elites of the family after going through a life-and-death situation. Ding! Tuoba Xianxian did not waste any time. In a life-and-death battle between enemies, there was no conceit or underestimation. There was only death. Her sword aura soared into the sky as her divine power poured out. It went straight for Yiqinghan. Sky Splitter. Yiqinghan drew his saber and slashed. He did not hold back at all. Pinnacle combat strength, pinnacle divine power poured out, pinnacle strength. Everything was adjusted to the peak. With such an attack, it was impossible for him to unleash more than 5 consecutive moves. If he could not defeat Tuoba Xianxian in 5 moves, he would definitely lose. Boom! The energy was so strong that it could destroy the heavens and the earth. The ground outside Yuyang Pass collapsed and was completely destroyed. Whoosh! Stone chips flew everywhere and filled the sky. The two of them were drowned in the fog. Boom! Tuoba Xuanxuan's body emitted a divine light that protected her body. A huge defensive barrier formed a spherical shape and slammed towards craziness with the divine sword. Tseng, tseng, tseng. Tuoba Xuanxuan's vital energy and blood surged in the opposite direction. Blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth. She was pushed back a few hundred meters by Yiqinghan's saber. Craziness strike. Fall of the heavens. Yiqinghan's veins popped out. He raised his saber and slashed again. His body soared into the sky and descended from the sky. He wanted to destroy the mountains and rivers. Boom! Tuoba Xianxian crushed the ground a few hundred meters away and stabilized her body. Her body shook and she soared into the sky. She was actually fighting against Yiqinghan. Bang! Yiqinghan's craziness collided with the tip of her sword again. The ear-piercing sound caused the soldiers on the city wall to cough out blood. Lu Zhantian quickly ordered people to activate the defensive array to reduce the pain. Inch strike. Yiqinghan twisted his waist in the air. He lowered his right hand and pressed Tuoba Xianxian to the ground. Tuoba Xianxian had no choice but to resist. Her speed was not as fast as Yiqinghan and her rhythm was controlled by him. Her body was like a kite with a broken string as she smashed towards the ground. Hua! The ground cracked as Tuoba Xianxian was smashed into the ground. Even the defensive barrier was shattered. Impossible. Tuoba Xianxian wanted to control the battle, but she could not control Yiqinghan. Her speed was not as good as his, and her strength was not as good as his. She could only defend passively. Revolving strike. Yiqinghan did not have time to care about her. His body spun at high speed and slashed towards Tuoba Xianxian who was in the deep pit. Hua! This slash directly tore the ground outside the Yuyang Pass. It was as if it was going to cut the entire plain in half. Boom! Tuoba Xianxian held her sword with both hands and tried to block Zhong Kuang. However, she was pushed back by the powerful force and crashed into the deep pit. Without the defensive barrier, she could only resist with her body. She coughed out blood and fell heavily into the pit. Pooh! Tuoba Xianxian was in disbelief. She struggled to stand up, but she realized that Yiqinghan had already released his fourth slash. Star-breaking sword. Tuoba Xianxian exploded for the first time. She took the initiative to attack and wanted to salvage the situation. Boom! The sword in her hand suddenly shattered into thousands of pieces and rushed towards Yi Qinghan like lightning. If all the sword fragments hit Yi Qinghan, it would be enough to shatter his body and godhead. These fragments only looked sharp, but when they hit someone, they would automatically explode and create a huge impact. It was rumored that they could even shatter a large middle plane. Hua! Yi Qinghan swung his blade. This slash broke through space and time. Blade chi and the sword fragments collided and exploded. The fireworks shot up to the 9 heavens and illuminated thousands of miles. The fifth slash. Yi Qinghan gave it his all. If he couldn't kill Tuoba Xianxian with this slash, he wouldn't have any chance to counterattack. Boom! Yi Qinghan stomped the ground and slashed towards Tuoba Xianxian like a sharp sword. Tuoba Xianxian didn't expect that her best move couldn't hurt Yi Qinghan. She couldn't help but be shocked. She didn't know that she had also forced Yi Qinghan to the end of the line. These 5 slashes had exhausted all of his godhead and all 11 of his godhead were gone. Boom! Yi Qinghan was as fast as lightning and didn't give her any chance to dodge. She had to take it head-on or die. Ka! The crisp sound of a sword breaking pierced everyone's eardrums. Tuoba Xianxian took out her divine sword again, but before she could even unsheath it, the scabbard was broken. Pooh! Tuoba Xianxian was directly knocked unconscious and flew back 1,000 meters. She crashed into the ground and was barely breathing. She no longer had the strength to resist. 5 slashes, only 5 slashes. Yi Qinghan fell to the ground and no longer had any strength. His face was pale and he hurriedly took out a large amount of godhead pills and elixirs from his universe ring. He only wanted to quickly recover his strength, but Zi Chongyun wouldn't give him the chance. Chapter 778. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Zi Chongyun rose up violently and blasted his palm towards Yi Qinghan with heavenly might. Wang! Emperor Yi, who was staring at Zi Chongyun, almost broke his zither strings as he mobilized his terrifying soul to attack Zi Chongyun. Emperor Ye's strongest attack ignored physical defense as the zither music directly slammed into Zi Chongyun's mind. Boom! Zi Chongyun had a splitting headache. Before his palm hit Yi Qinghan, he lost control of himself. He held his head with both hands and screamed, falling from the sky. Boom! 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 The war drums rang and the spirits roared. The army roared as their battle-intent soared. Di Longtian and the other 2 pulled out their swords to protect Yi Qinghan as they stared at Tuoba Yun and the others. If they dared to move, Di Longtian would definitely kill them all without hesitation. Wang wang wang! The zither music tore through time and space as it struck the source. Zi Chongyun was temporarily pushed back a few hundred meters. Emperor Yi did not give him any chance and began to launch an even stronger soul attack, delaying him for another 3 breaths of time. Although the time was short, it was extremely important to Yi Qinghan. The divine elixir melted as soon as it entered his mouth, turning into divine power that rushed into his godhead. He swallowed dozens of recovery pills. These were rank 15 divine elixirs, but they still could not fill up his 11 godheads. However, it was more than enough to protect himself. Yi Qinghan crushed more than a dozen pieces of supreme-grade divine crystals and forcefully absorbed their divine power. It flowed through his limbs and bones, and he recovered 80% of his strength. He opened his eyes and said to Emperor Yi, "Son, come back." Emperor Yi did not hesitate and immediately retreated. Zi Chongyun did not know that Emperor Ye's soul attack was so powerful. He was careless and made mistakes, causing him to be flustered. At this moment, his face was ashen as he knew that he had failed this mission. Even an expert like Tuoba Xianxian had died here. Young masters, quickly check on Princess Xian. Zi Chongyun was shocked. If Tuoba Xianxian died here, then there was no need for him to return to the Tuoba family. Even if he returned, he would be buried with her. After all, Tuoba Xuanxuan's status was too high. Tuoba Xuanxuan's fingertips moved slightly as she struggled to get up. One had to admit that her strength was terrifying as she could still stand after exhausting all of Yi Qinghan's energy. Yi Qinghan stared at Tuoba Xianxian with a serious expression. Tuoba Xianxian was definitely stronger than him, but she lacked battle experience. She was led by Yi Qinghan, which led to her using her weakness to fight against Yi Qinghan's strength. It would be terrifying if she didn't lose. Sister Xianxian. Tuoba Yun and the others saw the flames in Tuoba Xuanxuan's eyes and the terrifying killing intent she was emitting. They felt a chill in their hearts and knew that she was really angry. Tuoba Xianxian coldly glanced at Tuoba Yun and the other two and said, "Step back, this is none of your business." Yi Qinghan frowned. Could it be that this Tuoba Xianxian could continue to fight? A white jade pill appeared in Tuoba Xuanxuan's hand and she swallowed it. Her divine power quickly recovered and in less than 3 breaths of time, she was back to her peak state. Her eyes were cold as she said hoarsely, "You are the first person to force me to this point. You have more battle experience than me and can control the battle." Yi Qinghan nodded. This woman's strength was probably even more terrifying than Ren Huangye's. His strength against hers was only a slight advantage. If she was allowed to take the initiative, the outcome of the battle would be uncertain. "You can't win against me. You couldn't win against me before and you can't win against me now. Retreat." Yi Qinghan summoned the 10-direction seal. Even if he had to use his trump card, he would force this woman away. 10-direction seal. The 10-direction seal of the sorcerer tribe. Master God weapon. You are indeed from the sorcerer tribe. Tuoba Xianxian immediately recognized the 10-direction seal in Yi Qinghan's hand and said in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan could not confirm whether this was a Master God weapon or not and could not unleash the might of a Master God. Since Tuoba Xianxian said that it was a Master God weapon, there must be a reason for it. "I obtained the 10-direction seal by accident. I am not from the sorcerer tribe," Yi Qinghan said indifferently. "What a joke. Do you think that my Tuoba family's primal chaos inheritance is fake? The 10-direction seal can only be activated through the 5 elements. It can only unleash the might of a Master God with the origin of the sorcerer tribe. You are not from the sorcerer tribe, how can you use the 10-direction seal?" Tuoba Xianxian asked in disdain. Yi Qinghan's eyes lit up. He did not know that the 10-direction seal had such a secret. No wonder he could not unleash his peak strength. It was because he did not know how to use it. Tuoba Xianxian did not think too much about it and voiced her doubts. She also told Yi Qinghan how to use the 10-direction seal. At this moment, she understood that Yi Qinghan had the 10-direction seal. It was impossible for her to win. If they continued fighting, she would lose even more miserably unless she also had a Master God weapon. However, the Tuoba family only had one Master God weapon. It was the most precious treasure of the family. Unless the family was facing a life and death situation, they would not use it. "Yi Qinghan, this small plane is not suitable for true experts to develop, especially people like you. If you want to become stronger, you have to go to the Sisui plane. If you are interested, you can cooperate with my Tuoba family." Tuoba Xianxian stared at Yi Qinghan and said in a deep voice. "How can we cooperate? I am not good at kneeling and becoming a slave. I will not do that." Yi Qinghan replied indifferently. "You don't have to kneel and become a slave. My Tuoba family will help you conquer a city in the Sisui plain. You have to promise me one thing." Seeing Yi Qinghan's attitude, Tuoba Xianxian thought that there was hope. She went straight to the point. "What is it?" Yi Qinghan raised his brows and asked. "Hand him over to my Tuoba family." Tuoba Xianxian stared at Yi Qinghan and said expectantly. "Impossible. You can leave." I will go to the Sisui Plain sooner or later. I can conquer a city by myself. Yi Qinghan said calmly. This condition will always be valid. When you reach the Sisui Plain, you will understand that there is no place without a powerful family behind you. Tuoba Xianxian smiled confidently. She believed that Yi Qinghan would definitely agree. With a flick of her finger, she sent out a transmission talisman. Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand and caught the transmission talisman. There was no need to fight to the death with her now. If she attracted a super expert, he would not be able to handle it with his current strength. When you reach the Sisui Plain, you can contact me. After Tuoba Xianxian finished speaking, she turned to look at Emperor Yi. Her eyes were like limpid autumn water, without any ripples. Then, she left with the 4 people. Yi Qinghan remained silent. However, the other 3 juniors were somewhat dissatisfied. They felt that the 4 of them should have stayed. Father, why did you let them go? They will bring stronger people sooner or later. I think that woman's identity is not ordinary. We should capture her and make her a hostage. Yi Chintian suggested. I don't have the confidence to defeat her again. She's stronger than any of us. The only thing she lacks is the experience of fighting with me. After this battle, I'm afraid that her strength will improve even more. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and said in a deep voice. At this moment, everyone, including Emperor Yi, was shocked. In their eyes, Yi Qinghan was undefeatable. However, today, when facing a mid-level high god woman, he actually did not have the confidence to win. It was clear how strong Tuoba Xianxian was. She is on the same level as Li Feng. If you see her in the future, avoid her. Don't provoke her. Yi Qinghan warned in a deep voice. Chapter 779. After Yi Qinghan defeated Tuoba Xianxian, the Tuoba family didn't send anyone else. Zi Chongyun also became more well-behaved. The insane sect had a period of peace. The people of the inner sect returned one by one. After this experience, almost all of them broke through. However, Muyu Tianqian and Nangong Qingyue never returned. Even their life tablets in the inner sect were broken. Yi Qinghan looked at the shattered life tablets, his fingers trembling. He ordered people to investigate the cause of their deaths. However, it was as if the 2 of them had evaporated into thin air, disappearing into a middle realm. There were no experts there, so logically speaking, no one should have been able to kill the couple. However, the 2 of them had indeed disappeared from this middle realm. After investigating for a long time, they couldn't find the cause. They could only give up temporarily. Gu Qingyu condensed 3 godhoods. This experience was very fruitful. Not only did Xian Yanxue and Xue go out to train, but they also came back with a son. Before returning to the evil branch, they ran to the insane sect to report the good news. The people of the insane sect teased them, but they gave them a lot of red packets. They gave out supreme-grade divine pills, supreme-grade divine weapons, and defensive divine clothes. Yi Qinghan even personally made a protective divine clothes. It was enough to resist the attacks of the gods. As the body grew, the clothes would also change shape. It was enough to protect him for a lifetime. The 3-year agreement was getting closer and closer. Yi Qinghan came to the clear moon plain again. This time, no one dared to stop him. Sacred Qilin knew that Yi Qinghan was coming, but he didn't come out. He just ordered the sect not to provoke the madman. Yi Qinghan went straight to the Great Path Divine Sect. Li Sha and Wen Zheng came to welcome him personally. Yi Qinghan went straight to the point and asked to comprehend the Great Path of Karma. Li Sha and Wen Zheng didn't refuse. If it wasn't for Yi Qinghan, they wouldn't be able to comprehend the Great Path of Karma. They didn't dare to refuse Yi Qinghan's request. He could survive the siege of 3 masters. This kind of person's luck was heaven-defying. Offending him wouldn't end well. The great path of karma boundary stone was moved to the forbidden area in the back mountain. It coexisted with the order great path. Yi Qinghan came to the back mountain's forbidden grounds and sat cross-legged on the ground as he began to comprehend the great Tao of karma. Everything in the world has karma. If there is a cause, there must be an effect. If there is an effect, there must be a cause. Everything has its own conclusion. Today's cause, tomorrow's effect. As the saying goes, if you look up at the sky, who will the heavens spare? The more Yi Qinghan comprehended the great Tao of karma, the more shocked he became. He felt as if there was a pair of giant hands in the sky pushing the trajectory of history, and all of his actions were under the control of the other party. Not only him, but even the actions of the high and mighty primal chaos sorcerer god and the great demonic god could not escape the restraints of that pair of giant hands. The runes were difficult to understand, but Yi Qinghan was able to comprehend them so easily. Golden runes rushed into his sea of consciousness like tadpoles. Each rune represented a profound mystery, and they could be turned into divine weapons to attack from 10,000 miles away. At this moment, his realm was much stronger than before. He could understand the attack and defense methods of the Great Tao, and he also understood some of the Order Great Tao. In the forbidden area of the back mountain, space-time was distorted and the order of all things was changed. All of this happened with a single thought from Yi Qinghan. Li Sha and Wen Zheng looked at the sky above the forbidden area of the back mountain. The barrier that they had set up together could not stop the phenomenon. The two of them sucked in a breath of cold air and were extremely shocked. This guy's talent is too shocking. To comprehend the great Tao so easily, Wen Zheng said in surprise. Living in this era and encountering such a person is really a blow to one's Tao heart. This kind of existence is simply the best. I'm looking forward to when he becomes an over-god. Who knows, he might lead us to the Chaos Era. A strange look appeared in Li Sha's eyes. The Chaos Era was a legend, but it was not impossible to return to the Chaos Era. They did not know, but existences like the Tuoba family knew a sentence that was passed down in the Chaos Era. Sisui Realm, Tuoba family's main hall. The five of them were actually half-step over gods, and the only woman was Tuoba Xianxian. A white-haired old man sat on the main seat. It was unknown how long he had lived and how many eras. His face was full of wrinkles, containing the rings of history. He was the current head of the Tuoba family, Tuoba Joxiao. He was in existence of the same era as 9 Nether, and his combat strength was probably not inferior to 9 Nethers. Grandfather, why do you have to capture Qin Wentian? Isn't it good to cooperate with Yi Qinghan? I believe he will come back to find me, Tuoba Xianxian asked respectfully. Because Qin Wentian has one of the 10 great chaos physiques. During the end of the Chaos Era, there was a sentence that was passed down, the 10 great chaos physiques are manifested, yin and yang are reversed, the 10 directions return, the chaos reappears, and the clan prospers. Tuoba Joxiao stroked his beard, and his turbid eyes were shining. Tuoba Xianxian did not understand what the clan prospers meant, and neither did the other 4 old men. This sentence means that when the 10 great chaos physiques all appear, the shattered chaos universe will be reunited, and the chaos era will reappear. Every family that has the 10 great chaos physiques will begin to prosper. In other words, whoever has the chaos physiques will own the world. Tuoba Joxiao said in a deep voice. What? The chaos era can reappear? Tuoba Xianxian was shocked. The chaos plane was already fragmented, turning into countless medium planes and small planes. There were even a few large planes. If they were to reunite, how vast would the universe be? The gravity of the plane would probably make it impossible for the gods to fly. This is just a legend, a prophecy. The person who made the prophecy is the second-generation sorcerer god of the sorcerer tribe, so it's highly credible. There have been people with the chaos physiques in history, and they even cultivated to the level of over-god and entered the upper plane. However, the other chaos physiques have never appeared, and they could only slowly die in the long river of history. Now that there's another one, even if the other chaos physiques don't appear, she can become the pillar of the Tuoba family, and let the Tuoba family regain its glory, Tuoba Joxiao explained. Big brother, doesn't that mean we have to hold Qin Wentian in our hands? Tuoba Guangjuan asked in a deep voice. Yes, go and summon him personally. Tell him that I want to see him. If he refuses, kill him on the spot and bring Qin Wentian back, Tuoba Joxiao said calmly. The half-step over gods of the Tuoba family were not easy to deal with. The Tuoba family's secret techniques had never been broken. Most of them were divine skills from the Chaos era, and they had no problem killing those of a higher level, let alone dealing with the younger generation. It could be seen from Tuoba Xuanxuan's body that she could resist Yi Qin Han without using any divine skills. It could be seen that the true elites of the Tuoba family were very powerful. Grandfather, I think Yi Qin Han is very talented. Although I underestimated him, he can defeat me, which means that he can still be nurtured. Why don't we bring him to the family and nurture him? He might be of use to me. With his help, I'm confident that I can bring glory to the Tuoba family. Tuoba Xuanxuan's eyes glinted as she bowed and said. Chapter 780. In the Great Divine Sect, Yi Qin Han had been in seclusion, comprehending the mysteries of the Great Tao. After 3 months, he had condensed the 12th godhood, the Karma godhood. It had become deep and unfathomable, but his eyes could see through all illusions. All obstacles could no longer restrain his eyes. After condensing the 12th godhood, he began to cultivate the Great Tao's mysteries. The Great Tao's attack power was the strongest, and it could hurt people without them noticing. In addition to the Great Tao of Order and the Great Tao of Karma, there were also some stone tablets created by experts that recorded the mysteries of other Great Taos. Yi Qin Han comprehended them eagerly, and without knowing the passage of time, he cultivated bitterly for half a year. In the Great Divine Sect, Qin Chusheng had been cultivating crazily. He wanted Yi Qin Han to see his talent and take him away to reunite with his sister. The Divine Sect took special care of him and provided him with sufficient resources. The 2 supreme elders would occasionally give him pointers, which made Meng Xinghuan and Feng Yuesheng envious. If he wasn't a peerless genius, the 2 supreme elders wouldn't be interested in giving pointers. Little Z was also a blessing in disguise. Although her divine body was destroyed once, because of Yi Qin Han, she received special care from the Divine Sect. In just 2 short years, she was promoted to a mid-god priest. At this moment, she already saw Qin Chusheng as her family. The divine crystals in her hands were enough for her to live for a long time. There was no need for her to work as a maid to earn money. Hua Xinyang was also a blessing in disguise. She was implicated by Yi Qin Han and was beaten and humiliated. Now, she was like a fish in water in the Great Divine Sect and was highly sought after by the inner sect disciples. She relied on her wisdom to govern the outer sect disciples of the Great Divine Sect. Through operations, she started to do business and earned more divine crystals than when she was adventuring. Soon, she earned her first bucket of gold, 1,000,000 high-grade divine crystals. Finally, she established the Xinyang Trading Company with the Yuan City as the foundation and developed steadily. Now, even Meng Xinghuan and Feng Yuesheng were interested in the Fourth Mother Trading Company and became her backer, allowing the Fourth Mother Trading Company to compete with the God's Treasure Pavilion in the Yuan City. Ever since Yi Qin Han attacked the God's Treasures Pavilion, they had been unable to recover from the setback. Many forces took the opportunity to stand firm in the market and fought against the God's Treasures Pavilion to compete for the market. Heroes emerge from troubled times. Fourth Mother saw the opportunity and began to lobby the businessmen in the big cities, hoping to establish a business union. This kind of organization had never appeared before in the cultivator era. Her idea was simply unprecedented. The main purpose of the business union was to unite and protect themselves. This was to ensure that they would not be bullied by powerful factions. They could also cooperate with each other in business. If one wanted to join the business union, they had to pay a certain amount of money. Those who violated the rules of the business union would be kicked out of the union. Behind Huasinyang stood the Great Path Divine Sect and the killing god lunatic, Yi Qinghan. If she was willing to establish the business union, who would refuse to join? After joining the business union, one would not have to worry about being suppressed by the God's Treasures Pavilion or being bullied by powerful factions. If anyone dared to bully them, it would be the same as bullying Huasinyang. If they offended Huasinyang, Meng Xinghuan and Feng Yuesheng would be able to decide the outcome of the battle. Not to mention, they had the Great Path Divine Sect and even Yi Qinghan behind them. The business union was quickly promoted and spread throughout the Clear Moon realm. From small shops in the city to huge businesses, all of them joined the business union. Huasinyang was the first president, while Meng Xinghuan and Feng Yuesheng became elders. They did not have to pay any price. As long as they could ensure the safety of the business union members, they would be able to get 1/1000th of the total income of these businesses every year. After Yi Qinghan came out of seclusion, he was persuaded by Huasinyang to become an honorary elder of the business union. Just by being an honorary elder, he would be able to get 1/100th of the income of the business union members' shops. 1/100th was not much, but when countless shops were gathered together, it was a huge number. With Yi Qinghan joining the business union quickly entered other realms and recruited countless experts. Everyone cooperated with each other and their businesses grew bigger and bigger. Especially the Xinyang Business Union, it had developed into an existence that could compete with the God's Treasures Pavilion in just a year. Yi Qinghan calculated the time. There were less than 2 months left before the arranged battle with Li Feng. He took little Zi and Qin Chusch and rushed towards the mythical realm. With 1 adult and 1 child, Yi Qinghan spent more than a month to cross 2 realms and landed in the territory of the violent Dragon Empire. The world here was fundamentally different from the Clear Moon realm. There was no war or oppression. Little Zi looked at the prosperous violent Dragon Empire and was stunned. It was as if she had seen a fairyland. There is also a rescue station. Little Zi stuck out her tongue and felt a little unbelievable. What a beautiful realm. Is this your territory? Qin Chusch asked excitedly. Yi Qinghan nodded slightly and took Qin Chusch and little Zi to the southern mountain pass. When they arrived at the crazy manor, they found out that Li Feng had not appeared. There were only 3 or 4 days left before the 3-year agreement. Li Feng should have been here long ago. After making arrangements for little Zi and Chusch, Yi Qinghan calmly waited for Li Feng. Half a month had passed, and Li Feng still had not returned. Yi Qinghan could not help but wonder. Li Feng could not be dead, and it was impossible for him to play tricks on him. Why did he stay to challenge but not appear? Another half a month passed, and Li Feng still did not appear. Instead, the Tuoba family's special envoy, Tuoba Quangjuan, arrived. This powerful half-step lord was not overbearing. Instead, he politely asked Lu Zhantian to inform Yi Qinghan to come and discuss matters. Perhaps Tuoba Xuanxuan's request was effective, but the Tuoba family decided to use a conciliatory strategy to subdue Yi Qinghan and make him their slave. That was why Tuoba Quangjuan was so polite. Yi Qinghan frowned when he learned that the Tuoba family had sent an elder, a half-step lord. He thought to himself, they still haven't given up. The half-step lord in their family is no joke. With my current combat strength, there's no way I can defeat him. I'll go and see what exactly they want. After informing the people in the inner sect to be prepared for battle, Yi Qinghan flew to Yeyang Pass. He looked at Tuoba Quangjuan and bowed slightly. Greetings, Senior. What brings you here, Senior? Ha ha ha, you're indeed a dragon among men. No wonder Xian has nothing but praise for you, Tuoba Quangjuan laughed loudly. I'm the 3rd elder of the Tuoba family, Tuoba Kwangjuan. I'm here on the orders of the family leader to summon you. He hopes that you'll make a trip to the Sisui realm. The Tuoba family will definitely treat you with respect. I wonder if you'll do us the honor, fellow Yi. Yi Qinghan had investigated the Sisui realm and the Tuoba family over the years. They were giants, so it was best not to offend them if possible. As long as I go alone. Yi Qinghan asked calmly in return. What he meant was that he could go there without bringing him along. Of course. If fellow Yi would like to bring you and your wife along, the Tuoba family will naturally welcome you with open arms, Tuoba Kwangjuan said readily. Yi Qinghan fell silent. He did not know what the Tuoba family was up to. There was absolutely no need for such a powerful family to play dumb with him. They could just attack him directly. Now, they were trying to be conciliatory. Were they trying to be friendly? Was there a need for that? All right, I'll go alone, Yi Qinghan replied readily. Tuoba Kwangjuan was stunned. He did not expect Yi Qinghan to agree so readily. He thought to himself, isn't he afraid that it's a trap? However, Yi Qinghan believed that nothing ventured, nothing gained. He would have to go to the Sisui realm sooner or later. If he could form an alliance with the Tuoba family as equals, that would be the best outcome. If that did not work, he would have to find another way. Chapter 781. Yi Qinghan briefed Lu Zhantian on some matters and left the mythical realm with Tuoba Kwangjuan. They crossed dozens of realms in a row without leaving Tuoba Kwangjuan behind. Tuoba Kwangjuan was shocked. He felt as though Yi Qinghan's godly power was inexhaustible. Even his own godly power was starting to run out. Yet, Yi Qinghan was able to keep up with him at a leisurely pace. His godly power was still abundant. How many godheads does he actually have? I'm afraid the quality of his godhead is beyond my imagination. Tuoba Kwangjuan was getting more and more shocked. His attitude toward Yi Qinghan became more and more cautious. Yi Qinghan had 12 godheads. Each godhead had more internal space than other godheads of the same level. Although he was an exalted god, the divine power stored in his godhead was comparable to that of a half-step lord. After traveling for 3 months and crossing hundreds of realms, Tuoba Kwangjuan finally could not take it anymore. Panting, he stopped and looked at Yi Qinghan in a daze. He sighed and said, I'm getting old. Let's rest for a while. Old sir, you're still strong despite your age. You make a young man like me feel ashamed. I'm exhausted too. Let's rest for a while, Yi Qinghan said calmly. Tuoba Kwangjuan rolled his eyes. Yi Qinghan did not look tired at all. He clearly still had energy left. The divine bird stared at Tuoba Kwangjuan from inside Yi Qinghan's body and said wretchedly, do you want to get rid of this old thing? It won't be easy. There's no need to make enemies for now. Zi Chongyun is just a dog of the Tuoba family. I believe they'll give up on Zi Chongyun, Yi Qinghan replied through voice transmission. The divine bird did not say anything. It was easy to kill Tuoba Kwangjuan. That would be equivalent to becoming an enemy of the Tuoba family. Yi Qinghan could escape, but the mythical realm could not. There was no need to let the mythical realm and Tuoba Kwangjuan die together. Tuoba Kwangjuan sat cross-legged and rested for a while. Then, he swallowed several divine pellets and absorbed the divine qi. Soon, his divine power was replenished. He had to admit that the Tuoba family was indeed powerful. Yi Qinghan also swallowed a large number of divine pellets to maintain his divine power. He did not use the primal chaos divine origin in his hands, it was used to protect his life, it would definitely be useful in the future. The two of them continued to climb up. Along the way, the two of them chatted quite a bit. Yi Qinghan also had a general understanding of the sea-water level. In the Sisui realm, there were many powerful people. High gods were everywhere, and mid-gods were as common as dogs. The Tuoba family had a strong foundation, and they dominated the realm. With a strong foundation, even the most powerful forces had to give them some face. Although Tuoba Xianxian was one of the best in the younger generation, it was difficult for her to enter the top 30, which shocked Yi Qinghan. With Tuoba Xuanxuan's combat strength, if she fully utilized her foundation, Yi Qinghan would have to pay a heavy price even if he could win. Perhaps, both of them would suffer great losses. With her combat strength, she could not even enter the top 30 among the younger generation. How strong were those monsters? To be honest, the Tuoba family has been around for too long. The younger generation has already decayed. Now, we are relying on Xianxian alone. We need a new bloodline to awaken the fighting spirit of our children, and you are the most suitable candidate. This is also the reason why my family chose to cooperate with you. Tuoba Quangjuan was walking in the air. He was already approaching the Sisui realm, but he had slowed down a lot. Me? You think too highly of me. Yi Qinghan shook his head. He had no interest in tangling with the younger generation of the Tuoba family. Only Tuoba Xianxian could be his opponent. Tuoba Quangjuan smiled and said, the younger generation of the Tuoba family does not dare to fight the true experts of the Sisui realm. Their Dao heart has already collapsed. Only an outsider can awaken the pride in their hearts, the glory of the chaos inheritance. You want me to be your stepping stone? Yi Qinghan sneered. This was not a good job. No, the specific situation can only be decided after a discussion with the family leader. The Sisui realm is right in front of us. We can directly teleport to the Tuoba family through the realm gate. There is no need to travel anymore. Tuoba Quangjuan's robe fluttered as he pointed ahead. The realm river spanned thousands of miles, and the space-time turbulence shattered everything. Experts could not cross it at all. The two of them landed beside the realm river. Tuoba Quangjuan took out a space shuttle from his yin and yang ring. Yi Qinghan had never seen such a thing before. It looked like a spaceship from the mechanical civilization, but there were some differences. This is called a space shuttle. It's specially used to cross the realm river. This shuttle can withstand space-time turbulence. This shuttle costs 100,000 supreme-grade divine crystals. Tuoba Quangjuan opened the hatch and gestured for Yi Qinghan to enter the shuttle. Yi Qinghan stepped into the shuttle and discovered that only 3 to 5 humans could fit inside. The internal operating system was different from that of the mechanical civilization spaceship. This type of shuttle relied entirely on supreme-grade divine crystals to operate. Its material was special and could withstand a half-step lord's attack. However, this shuttle could only travel short distances. Otherwise, it could be used as a means of transportation. Tuoba Quangjuan quickly entered the cloud shuttle and sealed the hatch. He cast a restrictive spell to lock the hatch completely. A slot was filled with supreme-grade divine crystals. There were at least 100 supreme-grade divine crystals. As soon as the starter was pressed, the supreme-grade divine crystals turned into nothingness. The shuttle charged into the realm river like a sword. Its powerful tearing force could even shatter the space-time turbulence. Whoosh! The shuttle turned into a sharp arrow and charged to the other side of the realm river. In less than the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Tuoba Quangjuan had used up 300 supreme-grade divine crystals. Ordinary people could not afford that at all. Yi Qinghan got off the shuttle and discovered that the outer layer of the shuttle was not affected at all. He wondered what material it was made of and what kind of person could build such a shuttle to withstand such violent space-time turbulence. Where can I buy a shuttle like this? Yi Qinghan asked curiously. The Divine Weapon Sect. However, this shuttle is rarely sold to the public. Not only that, but there's a limited number of shuttles made each year. If you want to buy one, you'll have to meet someone you know and wait in line. My Tuoba family has no advantage at all. I spent 100 years just to buy this shuttle. Tuoba Kwangjuan liked the shuttle very much, so he put it away casually. Can this shuttle be used as a means of transportation? Yi Qinghan was very curious. If it could travel through the space-time turbulence, it should be able to travel through space as well. Yes, but it consumes too many supreme-grade divine crystals. There's no need to use it normally. You saw it just now. 300 supreme-grade divine crystals for an incense stick's worth of time. There aren't many supreme-grade divine crystals in the first place, so I won't casually use it as a means of transportation. Tuoba Kwangjuan explained. Yi Qinghan was interested. This shuttle was best used for escaping. It could tear through spacetime in an instant. Its speed would be much faster than a human's. Where is the Divine Weapon Sect? Senior, can you introduce me to them? I want to buy a shuttle. It's not a problem to barter with other items. Yi Qinghan stared at Tuoba Kwangjuan. With the shuttle, if there was a dispute after entering the Tuoba family, they would have a chance to escape. Chapter 782. Tuoba Kwangjuan did not want to complicate matters, but he could not argue with Yi Qinghan. All he could do was agree to bring Yi Qinghan to the Divine Instrument Sect. Sisui realm was so vast that even a half-step lord would need decades or even centuries to traverse Sisui realm. Therefore, space gate dimensional portals were very common here. There would be a space gate in every major city. The Divine Instrument Sect was located in Divine Fire City. There was a natural volcano there with extremely high temperatures, equivalent to a top-rank 15 Divine Fire. The Divine Instrument Sect used this place to smelt the materials for the shuttles. Each shuttles would take decades or even centuries to be built. After all, the natural fire was not controlled by the craftsmen. The smelting of the materials would take 100 times longer than the smelting of materials using the fire origin. The Divine Instrument Sect had been around for millions of years, but the total number of shuttles they had made was no more than 100,000. Oriental City is up ahead. It's the Dongfang clan's territory. Let's borrow the space gate. Tuoba Kwangjuan had no choice but to bring Yi Qinghan straight to Oriental City. Along the way, he saw many high gods shuttling back and forth. There were as many experts as there were clouds. This place was indeed much more powerful than the mythical plane. If the Sisui plane was a city, then the mythical plane was at most a remote and desolate place. The Oriental City was vast and majestic. Chaotic aura permeated the air. The city walls towered into the clouds and stretched for tens of thousands of miles. There was no end to them. It was awe-inspiring. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. The more powerful he was, the more insignificant he felt. The creatures of the chaotic era were just too incredible. How much manpower and resources would it take to build a city like this? Moreover, it had been passed down for so long. It was impossible for the people of today to build a city like this. The Dongfang clan is also a descendant of the chaotic era. A city like this is nothing. There are still many ancient buildings in the Sisui realm that have been preserved to this day. Those buildings are the real deal. Even I feel powerless when I see them. There's no way I can break through their defenses. I'm afraid even lords would find it difficult to break through those cities with their formations fully activated. Tuoba Kwangjuan sighed. Yi Qinghan nodded. The beings of the primal chaos era were simply too strong. Godfire City is one of the cities with the strongest defenses in the current era. It's a city of machines built by the artifact sect from the primal chaos era using chaos materials. I've heard that when the conditions permit, the city can be used as a weapon of war. It can even kill over gods. However, no one has ever seen anything like it. Perhaps the artifact sect has lost the ability to control the city, or perhaps the resources required to activate Godfire City are too much for the artifact sect to bear. Perhaps we've never been able to witness such a spectacular sight, Tuoba Kwangjuan said. Yi Qinghan had once flipped through the secret history of primal chaos. There was no mention of Dongfang City in the book. It could be seen that Dongfang City was not considered a major city in the primal chaos era. However, the artifact sect did mention it. For a sect to be recorded by the second sorcerer god, it was a testament to its strength. Back in the day, the artifact sect had a true fire god who belonged to the sorcerer tribe. The divine weapons forged by the fire overgod could cut through the sun, moon, and stars, and destroy the souls within the godhead. They were extremely powerful. It was said that he had once forged an overgod weapon but was met with the wrath of heaven. He was killed along with his overgod weapon by heavenly lightning. From then on, the artifact sect did not dare to forge another overgod weapon. There were a total of 21 overgod weapons in the past, and they were all in the hands of 21 overgods. These overgod weapons were not forged by the gods. They were natural primal chaos treasures, just like the reincarnation mirror. However, the reincarnation mirror was not an overgod weapon. Even natural primal chaos treasures had differences in strength. The reincarnation mirror was slightly weaker than an overgod weapon, let alone an overgod weapon. Some of the overgod weapons were destroyed when the overgods fought each other, while others were lost in the annals of history, never to be seen again. Once an overgod weapon appeared, the world would fall apart. Yin and Yang would reverse. There weren't many master god weapons nowadays. The Tuoba family was very powerful, but that master god weapon belonged to a lesser master god. It was usually worshipped as a treasure and would never be revealed unless it was a matter of life and death. If a master god weapon were to be unearthed now, the powerhouses of the Sisui dimension would definitely fight to the death for it. Powerhouses like the Nine Remoteness Lord would definitely be drawn out. Even the legendary master gods would appear. The two of them were silent. With Tuoba Kwangjuan leading the way, no one dared to stop them. They headed straight for the eastern city's gate. Taking the gate was not cheap. The starting price was 50 top-grade god crystals. Most people would not do it. Even high gods would rather waste time flying than taking the gate. The eastern city was hundreds of millions of kilometers away from Godfire City. It would take at least 30 years to get there by flying. Yi Qinghan could not afford to waste time, and neither could Tuoba Kwangjuan. They each paid more than 400 top-grade god crystals, then used the gate to teleport them out. Once the gate was activated, the world would spin, space-time would reverse, and countless stars would flash. The alternate dimension was extremely terrifying. The slightest carelessness would cause one to fall into the turbulence. Thus, one must not resist while riding the gate. Otherwise, one would definitely get lost in the alternate dimension. Using the gate was extremely fast. What would have taken 30 years to traverse was now only an hour's time. They arrived at Godfire City. Godfire City was like a machine. Its walls could move, and it was 30,000 meters tall. It was like a colossus. If this thing could move, then even overgods might not be able to destroy it. It was very likely that they would be destroyed. Yi Qinghan had already prepared himself, but he was still stunned. The two of them entered Godfire City and headed straight for the artifact sect in the southwest. It was extremely hot there, and the ground was next to a volcano. However, it had been suppressed by divine power and had yet to erupt. It was a majestic mountain range with tall, dense ancient trees. In the center of the mountain range was an active volcano. Flames occasionally spewed out, but they were blocked by formations. It looked like a paradise. The two of them arrived at the foot of the mountain. Tuoba Kwangjuan revealed his identity and ordered someone to inform the artifact sect's elder. As the Tuoba family with the most ancient heritage, Tuoba Kwangjuan still had some authority. Although the person who came might not be a grand elder or a grand elder, he would at least be the one in charge. As expected, a middle-aged man in brocade robes soon arrived. He was also a half-step lord. His name was Hu Jun. He immediately went up to Tuoba Quanjuan when he saw him. He said with a smile, "I didn't know you were coming, brother Tuoba. Please forgive me for not coming out to greet you. You're too kind, brother Hua. I'm here to ask for a favor. I hope you'll let me through." Tuoba Quanjuan returned the greeting. "Oh. If it's something I can help with, just say it." "I'm sure I can help with a little," Hua Jun said after glancing at Yi Qinghan. "This is Yi Qinghan from the mythical realm. He's a friend of mine despite our age difference. He'd like to buy a flow boat. I wonder." Tuoba Quanjuan gestured with his hand. Only then did Hua Jun take a good look at Yi Qinghan. He could not help but be surprised. Since when did the Tuoba family's elder become friends with a low-level god-level ant? Had they not always been high and mighty? "I'm really sorry, but the flow boat is a limited item. There's a limited number produced every year, so I can't sell it privately. So, I'm sorry. If you have other god weapons that you like, I might be able to help," Hua Jun declined without hesitation. "What if I offer a rank 15 fire origin in exchange?" Yi Qinghan asked calmly. "Please forgive me, but I'll update at least 3 times a day. I'd like to write this book specifically, but dreams don't fill my stomach. Please understand." Chapter 783. Hua Jun's pupils shrank as he stared at Yi Qinghan in disbelief. A 15th grade origin of fire was not easy to obtain. Anyone who could mass-produce a 15th grade origin of fire had to first be a fire elemental superior god, and secondly, they had to have a fire origin body. Only when their understanding of the origin of fire had reached a certain limit would they be able to produce a 15th grade origin of fire. Fire origins could be controlled autonomously, unlike natural volcanoes where everything was determined by the heavens. Therefore, Divine Weapon Sect's success rate was very poor. They had few finished products and were expensive. Every year, they wasted a lot of resources, which also prevented them from forging Lord God weapons. To forge Lord God weapons, one would first need a top-grade grade 16 Divine Fire. To mobilize a top-grade grade 16 Divine Fire, one would need to be a Fire Elemental Half-Step Lord and have a Fire Origin body. Divine Weapon Sect lacked such powerhouses the most. "Do you have a Fire Origin body?" Hua Jun asked in shock. Swoosh! Yi Qinghan swiped his hands, and the Fire Origins and Water Origins formed the Yin-Yang 8 trigrams. They coexisted with each other. Both were grade 15 origins. A dual Fire and Water Origin body. My goodness, I can't believe such a person exists. Hua Jun was so excited that his hands were trembling. He gestured to the two of them. "Please come in. We can talk about this." Tuoba Quanjuan's eyelids twitched. He had a bad feeling about this. He knew that Divine Weapon Sect was definitely interested in Yi Qinghan. Moreover, Divine Weapon Sect needed Yi Qinghan very much. They would treat him like a VIP and treat him with more respect than they would treat him. Yi Qinghan nodded. He put away the Fire and Water Origins and followed Hua Jun deeper into the sect. The moment Yi Qinghan stepped into Divine Weapon Sect, the Golden Crow suddenly woke up. It was so excited that it could not control itself. It turned into a flame and charged toward the volcano. What was that? Hua Jun was stunned. He did not manage to see the Golden Crow's appearance clearly, so he asked curiously. "It's one of my fire-type spiritual pets. I guess it was attracted by the volcano. If it's not convenient, I'll go and get it back." Yi Qinghan said faintly. "There's no need for that. The fire-type divine beasts are indeed interested in this volcano. It has attracted many fire-type divine beasts over the years. My sect isn't surprised at all. Fellow Taoist Yi, please come with me to see the sect master," Hua Jun said excitedly. Tuoba Quanjuan had become an extra person. He silently followed behind and regretted bringing Yi Qinghan to Divine Artifact Sect. The three of them sped past the outer sect and headed straight for the inner sect. Halfway up a tall mountain, it was chopped off by someone. An enormous palace was built on top of it. It was majestic and vast, filled with the aura of primal chaos. Weapon God Palace. This palace was famous. Everyone knew that it was a special flying palace that was much more powerful than the 9 Serenity Lords' palace. The palace itself was a defensive divine artifact. Moreover, it was a Lord God artifact that was personally created by the Lord of Fire back then. It had been passed down to this day without a break. It was engraved with runes that could repel attacks with a 300% chance of success. Apart from the over-gods and a few lords, no one could shake the Weapon God Palace. With the Weapon God Palace, Divine Artifact Sect was invincible. Senior Brother Sect Master, I have an urgent matter to discuss with you. Hu Jun said respectfully at the foot of the mountain. His voice boomed like thunder, spreading to every corner of the inner sect. Come up. An ancient voice reverberated in the valley. It lasted for a long time. Wherever the voice reached, all wills were tampered with. It was filled with command. Yi Qinghan and Tuoba Quangjuan's eyes were filled with shock. They knew that the sect master of Divine Artifact Sect must be an extremely powerful person. Even if his cultivation base was not that of a lord, it was much, much more powerful than the average half-step lord. Even Tuoba Quangjuan would not be able to last more than 3 moves. Thud, 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 the 3 of them walked all the way, not daring to fly at all. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the 3 of them arrived at the training field in front of the Weapon God Palace. They waited respectfully for the sect master of Divine Artifact Sect. Senior brother, I've discovered a dual origin body of water and fire. He can control a rank 15 origin body of water and fire. Would you like to see him? Hu Jun said with a bow across the palace. Oh. A dual origin Dao body of water and fire. It hasn't appeared for many years. Let him in so that I can take a look at him. An ancient voice came from the palace. Tuoba Quangjuan wanted to decline and drag Yi Qinghan away. Otherwise, he would have wasted his time here. However, the sect master of Divine Artifact Sect wanted to see Yi Qinghan. What right did he have to decline? Perhaps only the Tuoba family's master had the right to say no to the sect master. Hu Jun turned to Yi Qinghan and said, Senior apprentice brother wants you to go in. Remember to be respectful. If senior apprentice brother takes a fancy to you, let alone the flowing boat, even a stronger defensive divine artifact wouldn't be a problem. Yi Qinghan nodded. Such an old monster was even older than his own ancestors. He had been around for countless years and was worthy of respect. He would not offend such an old monster for no reason. Yi Qinghan walked toward the palace gate. As soon as he reached the gate opened slowly, revealing a vast space. There was a long path that led deep into the palace. There were divine herbs everywhere. The ancient trees had lived for countless years and the divine fruits were about to break the branches. The Weapon God Palace was not a palace at all. It was more like a sacred ground. The spiritual chi inside was so dense that one breath would be more useful than cultivating outside for a year. The divine bird ran out and drooled. If it didn't know that there was an old monster in the depths, it would not have been able to control its claws. What a treasure! TSK. Unfortunately, it is not mine. The divine bird swallowed its saliva and mumbled. Yi Qinghan followed the path and walked deeper into the palace. The more he walked, the more he realized how vast the space inside the Weapon God Palace was. It was like a different dimension with no end in sight. After walking for 2 incense sticks' time, a huge lake appeared. There was a small house on one side of the lake and a wooden bridge. Divine willows grew on both sides of the lake and created ripples on the surface of the lake. It was so beautiful that one would forget to leave. A white-haired old man sat cross-legged beside a stone table. There was an ancient chess board on top of it. He was the only one present. He was actually playing chess with Yi Qinghan. "Sit down and play chess with me." The old man's white hair reached his waist. He did not turn his head, but there seemed to be a pair of eyes staring at Yi Qinghan from behind. Yi Qinghan's body trembled. He felt goosebumps all over his body. He felt very uncomfortable. "Senior, my chess skills are not good." Yi Qinghan bowed slightly and replied respectfully. "It's okay. I am just bored. Play with me for a while." The old man still did not turn around. He waved his hand and Yi Qinghan lost control of his body. He sat down directly in front of the old man. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He raised his head and looked at the old man. His heart was beating rapidly as he patted his chest. Thump thump thump. The divine bird was also shocked. It flew up and shouted, "What the fuck? You scared me to death." The old man had a square face. He was full of vigor. His face was flushed red and his skin was dry and cracked. It was probably because he had been baked by the divine fire for many years. At this moment, he was not angry. His black eyebrows and deep eyes made people lose themselves in his eyes. Chapter 784. The old man looked at Yi Qinghan with a dignified air. His deep eyes were emotionless as he calmly raised his hand to make a move. "No need to be so formal. Let's chat while we play. What's your name?" Yi Qinghan knew nothing about chess, but the divine bird knew a thing or two about chess. It told him where to go next. After making his move, he replied, "I'm Yi Qinghan from the mythical realm. You seem to have more than one type of elemental origin. Do you have a 5-elemental Taoist constitution?" The old man didn't test him, but he could see Yi Qinghan's foundation. Yi Qinghan was shocked. This old man was indeed very knowledgeable. He didn't have the slightest fluctuation of divine power, but the old man could tell that he had a 5-elemental Taoist constitution. "Senior, you have good eyes." "I do have a 5-elemental Taoist constitution," Yi Qinghan replied respectfully. "Only those from the Chaos era have succeeded in forging an acquired 5-elemental Taoist constitution. I didn't expect to see someone like that at this time. 12 godhoods might not have been much in the Chaos era, but it's a miracle in this day and age." The old man revealed Yi Qinghan's foundation again. The divine bird couldn't stand the old man's eyes. They seemed to be able to see through everything. No falsehood could hide his wise eyes. Yi Qinghan knew that he couldn't hide anything from the old man, so he stopped trying. "Are you interested in joining the artifact sect? You'll be an honorary deacon. Once you cultivate to half-step lord level, you'll be promoted to an honorary elder. You won't have to fight. It's just a title, and you won't have to be worshipped. With this identity, you'll live a carefree life in the Sisui realm," the old man said slowly as he placed another piece. Yi Qinghan's eyes narrowed. He didn't expect the old man to let him join the artifact sect without testing him. It was rare to see such boldness. "Senior, I have a sect in the mythical realm. It's not big, but it's full of elites. They're all my brothers and sisters who fought with me in small realms." Yi Qinghan said honestly. "Don't worry about it. The artifact sect covers an area of tens of billions of square kilometers. I'll give you a city and a chance to develop. Just remember this favor in the future," the old man said calmly. Yi Qinghan was shocked. This old man in front of him was a little too good. It was as if a pie had fallen from the sky. Yi Qinghan stood up and bowed. "Thank you, senior. I will definitely repay your kindness. Tell me, why are you with the Tuoba family?" The old man gestured with his hand and Yi Qinghan automatically sat down. Yi Qinghan knew that there was no way he could hide it. If this elder wanted to investigate, he could even find out about his children. He replied, "Senior, the Tuoba clan summoned me for a child. It's one of the 10 great primal chaos constitutions, the ethereal physique." There was finally some emotion in the old man's eyes as he murmured, "The 10 battle constitutions, the reversal of yin and yang, the reappearance of the chaotic universe. The rise of the family. No wonder they were tempted. The ethereal spirit body belongs to the great demonic god's bloodline. Since you obtained it, why didn't you kill it? You have the bloodline of the dragon and the source of the shaman race. You should belong to the shaman race, right?" The old man frowned as he looked at Yi Qinghan. The people of the two factions were natural enemies. It was a grudge that originated from the source of the universe and could not be resolved. "Senior, the ethereal physique is only a child of 4 or 5 years old. She didn't commit any sin and I don't belong to either faction. I only want to protect those I should protect. She knows me and calls me uncle. I have the responsibility to protect her as she grows up. As for what will happen in the future, we'll talk about it later," Yi Qinghan said firmly. Sigh. Perhaps this is the will of the heavens. If this child was discovered in the past, she would have been killed long ago. Now that she's under your protection, it seems that the primal chaos unification is coming soon. The 10 great primal chaos constitutions will all appear in the near future. The old man sighed and looked up at the sky. Yi Qinghan remained silent. It was impossible for her to kill Qin Wentian unless the situation reached an irreversible stage. After a long game of chess, Yi Qinghan was completely defeated. The divine bird curled its lips. It was the first time in its life that it had lost. Although it was unwilling, it did not dare to be arrogant in front of the old man in front of it. Then, the old man took out a golden medallion with the word "glory" engraved on it. It contained the law of the great Tao and looked very dignified. "Take it. In the afternoon, I will personally announce that you are an honorary deacon of the Divine Tool sect. All the factions in the Sisui Plain will at least give you some face on the surface. However, no one can control what happens in the dark. This medallion can protect you from being killed by the older generation. If you die in the hands of someone of the same generation or are assassinated, the Divine Tool sect will not say anything." The old man pushed the medallion in front of Yi Qinghan and said indifferently, "Senior, what do you need?" Yi Qinghan held the medallion and asked. "I don't need anything. When you cultivate to the half-step over God level and upgrade your fire origin to the 16th grade, perhaps I will be able to use you," the old man said indifferently. The old man's lifelong dream was to forge an over-God weapon. However, without a 16th or 17th grade fire origin, this dream was purely empty talk. There was no way he could do anything about it. "If you need anything, go find junior brother Hua and ask him to prepare it for you. The price will be halved. Also, go and see that old thing from the Tuoba family. Try not to offend him if you can. Now that the era is chaotic, it's better to have one more ally than one more enemy. I think it's best for you to move your clan and sect to the Sisui Plain. Although it's chaotic and stronger here, with the protection of the Divine Tool sect, no one will dare to kill their way into my territory." The old man thought for a moment and continued, "If you agree, ask junior brother Hua to send a large cloud-piercing ship to the Divine Tool realm and move all your family, friends, and sect here. You only need to record a video. You won't have to waste time making another trip." Yi Qinghan thought for a moment. He knew that if he became an honorary deacon, he would definitely attract the attention of the world. Then, the Divine Tool realm and the endless plains hidden behind him would no longer be safe. He had to bring them here, especially those from the inner sect. They needed to gain experience. This vast plain was the domain of the inner sect. "Thank you, senior." Yi Qinghan was grateful to the old man from the bottom of his heart. The old man had only met him for the first time, but he had helped him regardless of the cost. No matter what his plans were, at least he had given him a chance to survive. At the mouth of the volcano, the golden crow directly blended in and rolled around in the depths of the volcano, devouring the fire essence. The volcano was restless and flames soared into the sky, alarming the people of the Divine Tool sect. Huajun rushed to the mouth of the volcano and found that the volcano was out of control. However, he did not find the golden crow in the depths. What's going on? Huajun looked at the guard guarding the volcano and asked in a low voice. Elder, a small black bird just ran in. I thought it was an ordinary divine bird, so I didn't stop it. But it actually rushed into the volcano's underground. The guard's expression was ugly. He didn't know what to do. A small black bird? Is it Yi Qinghan's spirit pet? It can't be the golden crow, right? Huajun's expression changed and he was shocked. He hurriedly shouted at the guard, "Go and ask the sect master to bring Yi Qinghan here." Chapter 785. The temperature around Divine Artifact sect was extremely high. Even the shrine couldn't bear it anymore. Flames spewed out from the volcano, threatening to devour the entire sect. Everyone's expression changed. The power of the volcano wasn't something the shrine could withstand. The flames here were at least 15th grade, and there might even be 16th grade flames in the deepest part of the volcano. Once it erupted, the entire Divine Artifact sect would be annihilated. The old sect master was also alarmed. He brought Yi Qinghan to the volcano in the blink of an eye. Looking at the volcano that was about to erupt, his expression changed drastically. What's going on? What's in the deepest part of the volcano? The old man asked. Huajun looked at Yi Qinghan. He wasn't sure if the thing in the deepest part of the volcano was Yi Qinghan's spirit pet. Yi Qinghan frowned. He knew that if the volcano continued to go out of control, it would definitely erupt. Thus, he stepped onto the volcano and started to absorb the uncontrollable fire essence. Everyone was shocked as they watched Yi Qinghan step onto the flames. His divine robe was destroyed, and the flames turned into a divine robe. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Yi Qinghan spun at high speed, absorbing the endless fire essence. His fire godhead was forged even stronger, and the fire essence inside it was filled to the brim. Once it erupted, it could destroy mountains and rivers. In the deepest part of the volcano, the golden crow rolled around like a fiery bird. It let out a furious roar, and the fire essence in the deepest part of the volcano continued to surge. Yi Qinghan couldn't hold on any longer. His divine body was cracking, and his godhead was about to be melted by the fire essence. The old sect master's expression changed completely. He shouted, "Open the inner sect's defensive array and evacuate everyone from the outer sect. Evacuate the people of Divine Fire City." Divine Artifact sect was in chaos, but it was still under control. However, the panic was uncontrollable. Roar! Yi Qinghan roared and turned into a dragon. His 12 godheads started to spin rapidly. The fire godhead converted the fire essence into divine energy and transferred it to the other godheads. The dragon godhead started to absorb the fire essence, alleviating the pressure on the fire godhead. A 10,000-foot-long dragon pressed down on the volcanic crater. Its entire body was golden red, and flame essence flowed around its body. It was a breathtaking sight. The old sect master also flew into the sky, hoping to relieve the pressure on Yi Qinghan. If Yi Qinghan couldn't control the fire essence in the sky, the volcano would definitely erupt. This volcano that had been suppressed for tens of millions of years would erupt with world-destroying power. The enormous Divine Tool sect would instantly turn into nothing. Apart from Divine Tool Palace, everything within tens of millions of miles would be flooded. The 5 elements turned into heavenly dragons that tumbled within the volcano. The element of water constantly suppressed the flame essences, but there were simply too many flame essences. In an instant, they were able to suppress the source of water. Bring me the materials, the best materials. Yi Qinghan's face was deathly pale. If he couldn't find an outlet for his divine power, his body would explode sooner or later. Whoosh! The old sect master immediately took out the divine weapon materials that he had kept for a long time and tossed them to Yi Qinghan. These were materials used to forge a master divine weapon. Although there wasn't much of it, it could definitely make Berserk a half-step master divine weapon. Unless it was a master divine weapon, no one would be able to resist it. Yi Qinghan mobilized the flame essences in his godhead and combined them with the volcano's fire essence to condense the materials. His divine power poured out to increase the temperature of the flame essences, but the effect wasn't great. At the beginning, it could only soften the materials. Yi Qinghan was multitasking. On one hand, he was absorbing the flame essences within the volcano. On the other hand, he was gathering the excess flame essences. On the other hand, he was using his divine power to ignite the flame essences. Tuoba Quangjuan sucked in a breath of cold air. This monster wasn't human. If he became a half-step master god, he could probably kill a powerhouse of the same level with a single slap. Roar! Roar! The five-element dragons roared as they absorbed the flame essences and spat them at a piece of divine metal in front of Yi Qinghan. It was about a few hundred kilograms. Yi Qinghan returned to his original form and took the initiative to refine the divine metal. The material gradually softened. 1 day, 2 days, originally, it would have taken at least tens of thousands of years to refine the material with the volcano's power. Even the flames on the outside couldn't refine it at all. Now, more than half of it had been refined in just a month. Yi Qinghan's divine power was still abundant. The elders and Tuoba Quangjuan couldn't help but gulp. The lower echelons and inner sect disciples of Divine Artifact sect were all driven away from the volcano. They only knew that something big had happened. After 2 months, the divine weapon material actually liquefied. The old sect master was very excited. However, he couldn't control the liquid divine weapon material at the moment. He could only let Yi Qinghan use it. Yi Qinghan then took out Zhongquang and refined it, creating a new one. More and more materials were being refined and turned back into liquid form. Divine Artifact sect was constantly providing materials to Yi Qinghan. They had no choice. If they didn't provide the materials now, Yi Qinghan wouldn't be able to release his godly energy. He wouldn't be able to absorb the fire essence and control the volcano. The liquid material was controlled by Yi Qinghan and changed its shape. The internal order was completely according to Yi Qinghan's thoughts. It contained all kinds of elemental origins and laws. Frenzy gradually took shape. However, the flame essences at the bottom of the volcano had already surpassed 15th grade. 16th grade flame essences began to erupt. Yi Qinghan couldn't control it and was shocked. He immediately summoned the golden crow through his soul. Little golden crow, come up immediately. Yi Qinghan roared. The little golden crow flew out from the depths of the volcano. It opened its mouth and swallowed all of the flame essence above it. I want to evolve into an emperor. The little golden crow used soul waves to send a message to Yi Qinghan and charged into the volcano again. Take it easy. Don't let the flame essences come up again, Yi Qinghan warned. Don't worry. This time, I'm going to swallow the 16th grade fire spirit in the depths of the volcano. The little golden crow excitedly charged into the depths. In the depths, a 16th grade fire spirit was frantically fleeing as if it had a soul and intelligence. It screamed and roared. The temperature around it was high enough to refine any creature, but the little golden crow chased it until it couldn't breathe. The 16th grade flame essences underground were extremely dense. The flames in the center of the volcano were uncontrollable and were swallowed by the little golden crow. It couldn't reach the surface anymore. Yi Qinghan retreated from the volcano's crater and cooled outside. The origin of water revolved around the berserk relic, radiating a cold light that could steal one's soul. This was a top 15th grade divine weapon, a half-step lord-level divine weapon. It took Yi Qinghan more than 2 months to forge a half-step lord-level divine weapon. If it were the old sect leader, it would take decades. He couldn't mobilize the flame essences in the depths of the volcano to refine the material. He could only rely on the flame essences in the periphery to refine it. This was Yi Qinghan's advantage. This. What material is this? Senior, I'll return it to you in the future. Yi Qinghan held the berserk relic. The more he looked at it, the more he liked it. This time, he had gained a huge advantage. If the little golden crow broke through, it would reach the half-step lord level. It might be difficult to kill people like Hua Jun or Tuoba Quangjuan, but it would be easy to kill people like Zi Chongyun. Hua Jun couldn't possibly be stronger than it. The old sect leader's expression changed slightly. He frowned and said, "As long as you don't let your little golden crow make the volcano erupt, I'll be grateful." Chapter 786. In the depths of the volcano, the little golden crow chased after it for more than half a year, swallowing countless rank 16 fire essences. It swooped down and devoured the fire spirit, while it soared into the sky and turned into a rocket. Whoosh! The sound of something breaking through the void cut across the river. The little golden crow turned into a pair of wings that blotted out the sky. It had successfully mastered rank 16 fire and become a half-step lord level. It was majestic, hanging in the sky like the sun. The entire divine fire city could feel the terrifying heat within 10 million miles. The ground was almost melted. The sacred beast golden crow. It's your spiritual pet, the old sect master asked in shock. Yi Qinghan nodded. It had finally matured. With it, it would be safer in the Sisui realm. The old sect master's eyes flashed. With the sacred beast golden crow and Yi Qinghan, it was only a matter of time before divine weapon sect forged a master god weapon. Seal the volcano. Forbid any fire-type divine beasts from approaching the volcano in the future, the old sect master ordered. He was scared out of his wits this time. Divine weapon sect was almost destroyed. That day, the old sect master announced that Yi Qinghan had become an honorary deacon of divine weapon sect. Many people in divine weapon sect were dissatisfied. An outsider who had contributed nothing to divine weapon sect was promoted to honorary deacon. Many young disciples had worked hard for divine weapon sect for thousands of years and could not even be considered inner disciples. However, who dared to question the old sect master's personal announcement? The 6 elders of divine weapon sect all supported the old sect master's decision. Yi Qinghan was now an honorary deacon of divine weapon sect. Tuoba Quangjuan was a little confused. He realized that he had wasted so much time only to benefit divine weapon sect. How could he accept this? Fortunately, Yi Qinghan promised to continue visiting the Tuoba family. His expression eased a little. The next day, Yi Qinghan followed Tuoba Quangjuan to the Tuoba family's territory through the space gate. Meanwhile, Hua Jun took Yi Qinghan's token and headed to the mythical realm on a large cloud-piercing ship. Yi Qinghan instantly went from a nobody to a household name. There was no one who did not know who he was. In the Grand Divine Artifact sect, every inner disciple had to go through layers upon layers of tests. Even some of the young geniuses of large aristocratic families found it extremely difficult to enter the outer sect. But what did Yi Qinghan do to be directly promoted to an honorary deacon? Most people were discussing Yi Qinghan's background. The Tuoba family had already received the news. Even the information regarding Yi Qinghan and the little golden crow had reached Tuoba Jiuxiao's ears. Even Tuoba Jiuxiao, the patriarch of an ancient lineage, fell silent. Yi Qinghan's performance was simply too shocking. Even Divine Tools sect took the initiative to promote Yi Qinghan to an honorary deacon. This was a testament to his potential. Xian, do whatever it takes to conquer Yi Qing Han. Tuoba Zhouxiao looked straight at Tuoba Xian. His meaning was obvious. Tuoba Xuanxuan's face turned slightly red. She understood what Tuoba Zhouxiao meant. Even if she had to sacrifice her body, she had to conquer Yi Qing Han and make him work for the family. I will try my best. Tuoba Xian lowered her head and said. I don't want you to try your best, I want 100% success rate. If it really doesn't work, I want a child at least. I believe that the two of you are definitely among the best in the world. You can even be ranked in the top 50. The top 50 of the younger generation are all people from large clans and factions. You can't have any connection with them. This Yi Qing Han is the best candidate. Our Tuoba family needs true elites. You are a woman after all. The family cannot be entrusted to you, but it can be entrusted to your child. Do you understand? Tuoba Zhouxiao said in a deep voice. Tuoba Xuanxuan's expression changed slightly. She clenched her fists, her eyes filled with unwillingness. In the entire Tuoba family, there was no one else who could stand on the stage except for her. Why couldn't she inherit the family and lead them to the peak? Was it just because she was a woman? This time, Yi Qing Han is here. I will create an opportunity for the two of you. Once you have a child, you cannot tell him. This child must be the Tuoba family's. Tuoba Zhouxiao said firmly. Grandfather. Tuoba Xuanxuan's expression turned ugly. She didn't understand what she was in Tuoba Zhouxiao's eyes. Was she just a tool to strengthen the family? Tuoba Xuanxuan's attitude couldn't change Tuoba Zhouxiao's decision. That night, Tuoba Zhouxiao announced a gathering of heroes in the name of Tuoba Xian. He welcomed all the young elites in the world to come and spar. He also spread the news that the main purpose of this gathering was to find a cultivation partner for Tuoba Xian. In the Tuoba territory, all the young experts were excited. If they married Tuoba Xian, they would be able to save thousands of years of hard work. They would be able to turn from a pheasant into a phoenix in an instant. Yi Qing Han and Tuoba Quangjuan arrived outside the Tuoba family. Tuoba Quangjuan arranged for them to stay in the VIP room before reporting to Tuoba Zhouxiao. After seeing the majestic Divine Tools sect and Divine Fire City, the Tuoba family didn't seem to be so shocked anymore. Yi Qing Han had condensed all kinds of godheads in the past 6 months and entered the mid-level high god realm. His battle prowess had increased by 100-fold. He could defeat Tuoba Xian even without using the 10 direction seal. However, Yi Qing Han still suppressed his cultivation level to the low-level high god realm. He didn't reveal his full strength, leaving himself a way out. The divine bird's restless genes began to stir. It discovered that the Tuoba family had many treasures, so many that it was impossible to count them all. Yi Qing Han didn't want to fall out with the Tuoba family at this time. He suppressed the divine bird and didn't let it cause trouble. In the Tuoba family's territory, the young disciples of all the forces in the Qingshan continent went straight to the Tuoba main city through the space gate to participate in the meeting of heroes. Firstly, they wanted to verify their progress over the years and discuss the Tao arts that they couldn't comprehend. Secondly, they wanted to attract Tuoba Xuanxuan's attention and become the son-in-law of the Tuoba family. The Xue family of the Qingshan continent, King Xue, was a supreme king and a top expert of the young generation. His cultivation level was higher than Tuoba Xuanxuan's, but their battle prowess was on par. He was Tuoba Xuanxuan's most powerful suitor. The Lin family of the Lin family, Lin Zishan, was the third strongest expert of the young generation in the Qingshan continent. He was also Tuoba Xuanxuan's suitor. He had been on par with King Xue for the past few years. They would fight once every 10 years, but he always lost by a little. The second place was naturally Tuoba Xian. The fourth place was the Sky Sword Sect's Qing Kuan. The fifth place was the son of the 9 Dark Strongholds leader, An Xian. One had to admit that An Xian was the most difficult person to deal with in the Qingshan continent. Although his cultivation and battle prowess were strong, he hadn't reached the level of an ultimate expert. He couldn't even be ranked in the top 500. However, he was an assassin and had a vengeful personality. His father was the leader of the 9 Dark Stronghold, and his cultivation level was close to the Master God level. Their entire family had the same personality. They were protective of their own people and had no bottom line. Very few people dared to provoke them. Sometimes, even the inner disciples of the Tuoba family would have to avoid An Xian. The top 30 experts of the Qingshan continent, regardless of whether they were rogue cultivators or those from prominent families, had all arrived at the main city through the space gate to wait for tomorrow's meeting of heroes. Chapter 787. The next day, Yi Qinghan slowly woke up, but Tuoba Jiuxiao did not summon him. Instead, he was greeted by Tuoba Xianxian, who was extremely charming. She wore a cream-colored dress with sleeves that only covered her elbows. Her jade-like arms were like jade, and divine light circulated around them. Her twin peaks stood tall and straight. This kind of charm was different from Renhuang Ye's. Tuoba Xianxian made people impulsive, while Renhuang Yi made people calm down. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows. He did not understand why Tuoba Xianxian was dressed like this. Although it did not look out of place and was even more beautiful, he did not like Tuoba Xuanxuan's style. Perhaps he liked Tuoba Xuanxuan's heroic spirit and fighting spirit that was comparable to a man's. Why is she dressed like this? Yi Qinghan asked calmly. She's seducing you, idiot. The divine bird replied bluntly. Yi Qinghan, Tuoba Xianxian clenched her fists and glared at the divine bird to hide the panic in her heart. She looked straight at Yi Qinghan and said, "There's a gathering of heroes today. It's a gathering of the younger generation. It's good for you. My grandfather might not have time to see you today, so I'm inviting you to have some fun." Who are they? Yi Qinghan asked. Qingshan continent's top 30 experts, Yu Haizhou and Xianyuan continent's top 10 experts. My 3 friends are all peerless beauties. They're considered top beauties in Sisui Plain. Are you interested? Tuoba Xianxian smiled and asked, "If you're interested, why don't you change your clothes? I'll wait for you outside." Yi Qinghan nodded. Tuoba Xianxian glared at the divine bird, turned around, and left the room. The divine bird curled her lips and clicked her tongue. For a proper woman to suddenly become so flirtatious, if she doesn't have bad intentions, then she must have fallen in love with you and is trying to seduce you. No matter which one it is, you have to be careful. Otherwise, I'm worried that the little master will join forces with the people from the inner sect to beat you up. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes. After a simple wash, he changed into a black battle robe that accentuated his tall and straight figure. No matter how he dressed, he was the center of attention and stood out from the crowd. I'm just going to see the experts of the Shiesi water level, so I'm mentally prepared. Don't worry, I'm not interested in other women. Yi Qinghan tidied up his clothes and stepped out of the room. Looking at Tuoba Xuanxuan's faintly discernible curves, that kind of hazy feeling could definitely seduce any man. The two of them walked side by side, drawing the envy of the bystanders. A few young people from the Tuoba family looked at Yi Qinghan with anger and killing intent in their eyes. However, with Tuoba Xianxian beside him, they did not dare to act recklessly. Longquan Garden was Tuoba Xuanxuan's side courtyard. It was a huge independent side courtyard with mountains, rivers, forests, pavilions, and a small martial arts arena. At this moment, there were more than 40 experts sitting in the side courtyard. 5 of them were women, and the rest were all top-notch elites. Any one of them was comparable to the inner sect experts of the insane sect, an existence that could wipe out a small middle realm. Each of them was handsome and dignified. 3 in a group, 2 in a team. However, there were 5 experts who were more aloof and arrogant, unwilling to interact with others. Qingshan Continent's number 1 expert, Shuizhuang, number 5, and Xian, Yu High Continent's governor's son, Yu He, and Xianyuan family's Xianyuan Continent's Xianyuan Zio. Both of them were the representatives of their respective continents. Coupled with their prominent backgrounds, they did not like to interact with outsiders. Their target this time was Tuoba Xianxian, hoping to marry Tuoba Xianxian to achieve their goal of forming an alliance. There was also a cold young man who was also dressed in black. He was as cold as ice and did not speak much. The sword in his hand never left his palm, keeping everyone at 1,000 miles away. The 5 top-notch female cultivators were indeed as Tuoba Xianxian had said. They were all peerless beauties. However, looking at the situation, the 5 of them seemed to be very familiar with each other. At this moment, they were gathered together to discuss something. However, they kept the other men outside, warning anyone who approached them. At this moment, Tuoba Xianxian brought Yi Qinghan into the Longquan garden. The divine bird sat on Yi Qinghan's shoulder and smiled arrogantly. It swept its gaze over the 40 people in the pavilion at the side of the martial arts field like a supreme emperor. Tuoba Xuanxuan's dressing today indeed made everyone's eyes light up, especially those women. Their eyes widened, and at this moment, these women seemed to pale in comparison. Xian, did you eat the wrong medicine? You're actually wearing a dress, and such a seductive one at that. Who are you trying to seduce today? An extremely beautiful woman was shocked. She was Qingshan Continent's governor's princess, Yi Shanjing. Other than Tuoba Xianxian, she was the most beautiful woman. Yi Shanjing moved from Tuoba Xuanxuan's body to Yi Qinghan's side. She looked at Yi Qinghan's tall and straight body, his imposing aura, and his devilish appearance, and couldn't help but come to a realization. She clicked her tongue in wonder and joked, "Yo, Xian, you don't seem to be choosing a husband this time, but to tell us that you've already chosen a husband, right?" The women were still fine, but the other men's expressions changed. They stared at Yi Qinghan and released their auras, pressuring Yi Qinghan. At least 30 young experts released their auras towards Yi Qinghan, causing the sky to change color. Yi Qinghan's robe was blown up by the wind, and his hair was blown back. However, he didn't look at the crowd, and his expression didn't even change. He was strolling leisurely as if nothing had happened. "Little girl, what nonsense are you talking about? Be careful or I'll beat you up." Tuoba Xuanxuan's face was bright red, and this was the first time she looked shy. Seeing this, Yi Shanjing and the others smiled faintly. There was no need to say anything about such an obvious thing. King Shui coldly glanced at Yi Qinghan and asked Tuoba Xianxian gently, "Xian, why don't you introduce him to me? Why haven't I seen this person before? Can any Tom, Dick, and Harry participate in the meeting of heroes? A nobody, and a low-level high god rookie. Miss Xian, could it be that he's your distant relative?" And Xian said disdainfully. Tuoba Xianxian saw the hostility of the crowd and quickly transmitted to Yi Qinghan, "Don't be angry, I didn't tell them that you're participating in the meeting of heroes. Let me introduce everyone. This is Yi Qinghan. I'm sure everyone has heard of him before. He's a famous person recently, and he's the honorary deacon of the Divine Artifact sect." Tuoba Xianxian pulled Yi Qinghan's arm and walked towards the forest pavilion. She said with a smile, "I've known Mr. Yi for many years, and I once fought with him in the mythological plane. I lost by a little, but we're friends now. He has a wife, so don't spout nonsense. His wife is much prettier than me, and I can't help but feel pity for her. TSK, I didn't expect Xian to have such a feminine side. She's even lying to herself now." Yi Shanjing continued to tease. "That's right, I always thought that Sister Xian was the manliest of the women. I didn't expect her to become a woman when she has feelings." Ha ha ha, the 5 women laughed, and Tuoba Xian couldn't raise her head. "Greetings, Yi Qinghan. Fellow Taoist Xian Xian and I are just ordinary friends. Please don't misunderstand. This will only tarnish fellow Taoist Xian Xian's reputation. Yi Qinghan slowly spoke up, his hoarse voice causing the 5 female cultivators to have a much better impression of him. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.